I started spending money for my family when I was only 7 years old. By the second grade, I had already maxed out 2 of my dad's credit cards with limits of 100 million each in just 3 days. When I reached middle school, I went even further and secretly sold off most of the company's shares, cashed out tens of billions, and then spent all of it within a single month. My actions not only caused a massive financial earthquake across Tianhai, but almost made my dad lose control of the entire company. In just 10 years, I practically drained a corporation worth hundreds of billions dry. But today my dad suddenly called me and said our family had gone bankrupt and told me to come home and become a farmer. Strangely, even though I was thousands of miles away, I wasn't nearly as emotional as he was. When I heard the news about the bankruptcy, I didn't feel sad or disappointed at all. Instead, I felt relieved, like a huge burden had finally been lifted off my shoulders. I casually threw the toilet cleaning mop aside, dropped onto the floor without caring about my image, and muttered in my mind, "Dog system, you heard that too, right? My family's out of money now, so go find another host. Just consider all the money I spent on you over the years as money wasted feeding a dog." Almost instantly, a mechanical voice with a sly tone echoed inside my head. "Don't say that, host. The system is almost fully developed. How can you quit halfway?" The moment I heard that voice, my anger exploded. "Developed my ass. I spent over 10 billion trying to raise you. If I had spent that much feeding pigs, they would have already made me rich by now. But you? All you do is scam me out of money every single day. I'm done." In order to develop this so-called strongest manufacturing system, I had desperately searched for ways to make money for years. Because of that, I even carried the title of China's #1 prodigal son. Everyone thought I lived a luxurious and wasteful life, but only I knew the truth. I was probably the most miserable, rich, second-generation heir alive. While other rich heirs drove luxury cars and enjoyed life surrounded by beautiful women, I was out there working exhausting part-time jobs just to pay for daily expenses. Every day, I lived frugally and ate cheap food, all so I could save enough money to feed this stupid system. But after raising it for 10 whole years, there still wasn't even the slightest sign of success. At that point, I was exhausted. I really didn't want to continue anymore. The system hurriedly said, "Host, it's really just the final payment now. Only another 2.3 million, and the activation will succeed. Trust me." I almost laughed hearing that. This dog system had fooled me more times than I could count. "My dear host, I swear this is the last transfer. As long as you send the money, the system will immediately finish loading." I checked my bank balance and realized that after subtracting the cost of my flight home, I had exactly 2.3 million left. This damn system really wanted to squeeze every last drop out of me. "Forget it," I said firmly. "If I transfer even 1 more cent to you, then I'm a dog. Even if you place the design blueprint for Iron Man's armor right in front of me, I still won't give you another penny." But the moment I finished speaking, my expression suddenly changed. Because inside my mind, an actual mechanical armor blueprint really appeared. Looking at that unbelievably detailed battlesuit, my heartbeat instantly sped up, and I felt myself losing control. Seriously, what man could resist something like that? The system spoke again. "Host, I'm really not lying this time. But with your current abilities, even if I give you the blueprint, you still won't be able to build it. That's why you need my help. Trust me, just this final 2.3 million and the strongest manufacturing system will truly belong to you." I swallowed hard and tried to calm myself down. This had to be another trap from the dog system. I absolutely had to resist it. "Fine, transfer it." In the end, I still couldn't hold back. Almost immediately, a bank notification appeared on my phone. Honestly, I had already lost count of how many times I had become completely broke because of this thing. I stood up, dusted myself off, and sighed helplessly. Whatever, I've already been scammed so many times. One more won't make a difference. But just after I finished putting away my cleaning tools, my head suddenly became heavy. Then a sharp ding echoed inside my consciousness, followed by a series of mechanical notifications. "Strongest manufacturing system fully loaded. Host enhancement completed. Beginner gift package delivered. Store unlocked." I froze on the spot. This time, it was real. The dog system actually hadn't lied to me. As my consciousness entered the system space, a transparent interface appeared before my eyes. "Host, Gucheng. Manufacturing level, level 1. Fame value, 0. Wealth value, 20,000. Appearance, 88. Mathematics, 61. Physics, 60. Chemistry, 60. Biology, 60. Information technology, 60. Language, 100. The moment I saw my stats, I immediately became furious again. "Dog system, this is your enhancement? Why are all my abilities barely average?" The system calmly replied, "Host, this is already the system's enhancement limit. A score of 60 already surpasses most humans on Earth. For example, in mathematics alone, you are already above 99% of the global population." But I still wasn't satisfied. "No, my appearance score is still too low. Increase it right now or refund my money." After a long round of bargaining, I finally managed to make the system raise my appearance score to 92. Now I could at least confidently stand out among normal people. At the same time, I finally understood how the system actually worked. If I wanted to create advanced technology, I first needed to raise my manufacturing level. With my current level 1 manufacturing ability, there was no way I could create something like the Iron Man armor. To level up, I needed to improve my fundamental scientific knowledge because truly powerful inventions had to be built by me, not simply handed over by the system. There were mainly two ways to increase my level: fame value and wealth value. In simple terms, reputation and money. Even the blueprints and manufacturing tools inside the system store required fame value or wealth value to exchange for them. After understanding all of that, I took a deep breath because the most exciting moment had finally arrived. I had spent 10 years raising this system, so the beginner gift package couldn't possibly be bad, right? Then the rewards finally appeared before me. A mathematics problem-solving card with a difficulty range between 60 and 70, and a blueprint for a small graphene battery. That's it? At the very least, you should have given me a cold fusion battery or something. Unfortunately, this time I failed to bargain with the system and could only reluctantly accept the rather underwhelming beginner gift pack. Before returning home, I decided to stop by the school laboratory first and create a sample of the small graphene battery. After all, once I went back home, I wouldn't be the rich second-generation heir I used to be, and there was no guarantee I'd still have the resources to manufacture something like this. Thankfully, even though my high school wasn't particularly famous, its equipment was surprisingly advanced. At least the ridiculously high tuition fees weren't completely wasted. As for my departure, the school was more than happy to let me leave. In a school filled with wealthy heirs, tuition fees were only the beginning because schools like this usually earned plenty of extra money from rich students. Unfortunately, I was the exception. Not only could the school not earn any extra money from me, they actually paid me a salary from time to time because, in their words, this kid works hard cleaning toilets every day. One teacher even sighed in relief and muttered, "This poor kid is finally leaving, but who's going to clean the toilets from now on?" The principal looked both happy and worried at the same time. Just then, an old professor suddenly rushed into the office in panic and shouted, "Where's Gu Chen?" The principal casually replied, "He already left. He should be at the airport by now." The old man nearly exploded with anger. "Idiot! You just let a once-in-a-generation genius walk away. A genius who could have made our school famous forever." The principal stared at him in confusion while the old professor continued trembling with excitement. "A 17-year-old designing experiments like this? My God, that child is destined to change the world." Meanwhile, sitting on the plane, I suddenly noticed that my fame value had increased to 340 points. Then I remembered that while creating the battery sample, I had forgotten to erase the operation records. Someone must have discovered them. Still, I didn't care too much. Those records alone weren't enough to reproduce the finished product, and the battery still required a special conductive interface for actual application. In other words, my battery was still completely unique. Since fame value wasn't particularly useful for me right now, I simply used all of it to upgrade my manufacturing level. The dog system had already told me that unless my manufacturing level reached level 2, my fundamental science abilities, aside from language, couldn't surpass 60 points. The extra point in mathematics was only a bonus reward for raising the system for so many years. Seriously, this system was unbelievably stingy. But after looking at the experience bar showing 300 out of 1,000 points, I felt a little better. Reaching manufacturing level 2 probably wouldn't be too difficult. Then I asked the system, "What's the exchange rate if I use wealth value to level up?" The system calmly answered, 10,000 currency units for 1 experience point. I almost cursed out loud. I knew it! This dog system is always trying to scam my money. Right there in my heart, I swore that from now on I would only use fame value to level up and never let the system profit off me again. The moment I walked out of the airport, I immediately saw my parents holding a sign. But when I looked at the elegantly dressed couple surrounded by 7 or 8 bodyguards and luxury cars, I honestly started doubting reality itself. Weren't we bankrupt? Why did this look nothing like bankruptcy? The moment I walked over, my mom, Hey Yuki, instantly pulled me into her arms and hugged me tightly. "Mom's sorry," she said emotionally. "I let you stay outside alone for so long. Look at my son, you've gotten so thin. I told your father before that 8 million a month was nowhere near enough for living expenses. This is all Mom's fault. I should have secretly sent you more money." Beside her, my dad Gu Guozhang's eyelids twitched violently. He clearly felt like things were about to go terribly wrong. "Are you trying to make our son even more wasteful?" he complained helplessly. I looked at them in confusion and asked, "Mom, didn't our family go bankrupt?" Before my dad could speak, my mother immediately interrupted him. "Your father's company is gone, but Mom still has money. don't worry. If you need money, just ask me and I'll give it to you. The moment I heard that, my heart skipped a beat. Crap. The dog system definitely heard that too. It was absolutely going to ask me for money again later. Almost as if it was responding to my thoughts, a notification sound rang inside my head and a new mission instantly appeared on the system panel. As a future master manufacturer, how can you not own your own company? As the sole heir of Xingchen Technology, saving it is your unavoidable responsibility. Mission objective: repay all debts of Xingchen Technology, restore operations, and restart business activities. Mission reward: 900 fame value, 1 charm point, and 1 free lottery draw from the system store. Seeing the mission, I actually relaxed a little. At least this time the money wasn't being handed directly to the system. I turned toward my dad and carefully asked, "Dad, is there really no way to save the company anymore?" Dad suddenly looked incredibly emotional, almost like he was proud of me for the first time in years. "My son has finally grown up," he sighed. "You finally know how to care about the company instead of only asking for money." Then his expression darkened again. "There's no hope. The financial gap is too large, and competition in the industry has become too intense over the past few years. The company hasn't had any profitable business for a long time." Hearing that made me feel genuinely guilty. "I'm sorry. If I hadn't kept using the company's money all these years, maybe things wouldn't have ended like this." But Mom immediately became unhappy. "Son, this isn't your fault," she said firmly. "You only spent a little money. Your father's useless company couldn't make much money anyway. Even without you, it would have gone bankrupt sooner or later." Dad clearly looked upset after hearing that, but as the lowest ranked member of the family, he could only obediently stay silent. And honestly, Mom's words did make some sense. At that point, I no longer cared what the real reason for the company's collapse was. One thing was certain though, Xingchen Technology absolutely had to survive. I looked at Mom seriously and asked, "Mom, how much money do you actually have?" Even though she loved me unconditionally both in her heart and in her words, the moment I asked that question, I noticed her body tremble slightly. It was obvious what she was thinking. After I finished ruining my dad financially, was it finally her turn now? She hesitated for a moment before answering carefully. "I don't have much cash, but I still own some real estate and stocks, and none of it is connected to your father's company, so it's completely safe. Everything belongs to you anyway." I took a deep breath and said seriously, Mom, I want to save Xingchen Technology. Do we have enough money?" The moment those words left my mouth, Mom froze in shock, while Dad immediately broke out in cold sweat. After finally sacrificing part of the company just to preserve a little savings for the family, my dad absolutely could not allow his prodigal son to waste everything again. He coughed twice before speaking seriously. "Son, you don't need to worry about the company anymore. You're still young, so you should focus on studying properly. I'll find another school for you in a couple of days. Just quietly study for the next 2 years." But I couldn't listen to that at all. I immediately hugged my mother's arm and pleaded, "Mom, trust me. Give me the money and I can definitely save Xingchen Technology. Since I was capable of ruining the company, I can also bring it back to life." The moment Dad heard that, despair completely filled his face. He looked like a man whose entire future had gone dark. In his mind, it was over. His idiot son's spending habits would never stop, and suddenly life felt unbearably long. The moment Mom handed me her phone, I immediately began checking all of her assets. I honestly didn't even know whether it would be enough to save Xingchen Technology. I looked at Dad and asked, "How much money do we actually need?" Dad's face turned deathly pale, but he remained silent. He clearly didn't want to answer my question at all. Mom swallowed nervously before saying, "Son, the court is coming to seal the company the day after tomorrow. In such a short time, you probably can't gather enough cash." The moment Dad heard that, his eyes instantly lit up with joy. Right, their family didn't have much liquid cash left. Even if their son wanted to waste money again, it wouldn't be that easy this time. I frowned and asked, "What if we get a loan from the bank?" The moment those words came out, Mom's expression became awkward, as if she didn't know how to answer. Dad, however, laughed bitterly and said, "Son, you don't seriously think our family can still borrow money from a bank, do you? The bank is already our biggest creditor. We've long since been blacklisted. Do you know how hard I worked just to preserve this little bit of family wealth?" Hearing that made me feel genuinely disappointed. I immediately started thinking about how I could quickly turn assets into cash. But then I suddenly noticed something strange. Wait, aren't we going the wrong way? Isn't this not the route home? Mom quickly explained, "Today is Suyu King's 17th birthday. We're going to her house tonight for dinner." The truth was, my sudden obsession with saving the bankrupt company had frightened Mom a little. She felt that our family should start saving money wherever possible. So naturally, free food was something we couldn't miss. The moment I heard the name Suyu King, my eyes widened. "No way. I just got back and I already have to meet that young lady?" Dad nodded helplessly. "Yeah. Honestly, it's such a pity. Back then, I finally managed to get your future father-in-law drunk and successfully secured a marriage agreement. But unfortunately, I lost it later. And now that our family has fallen this far, we don't even have the face to approach their family anymore." Mom also sighed regretfully. You really are a prodigal son. How could you lose something that important? Yu King would have been such a perfect daughter-in-law. The moment I heard that, I guiltily lowered my head, because the marriage agreement was never actually lost. I was the one who stole it. Back then, in order to get money to feed the system, I secretly took the marriage contract and sold it directly to Su Yu King for 50 million. This was probably the most ridiculous broken engagement in history. At first, the girl thought she got a great deal, but the more she thought about it later, the stranger it felt. I was the one canceling the engagement, yet somehow I was the one paying her money. It was outrageously shameless. Later, she tried looking for me to settle the score, but by then, I had already gone abroad, so the matter eventually faded away. Honestly, I really didn't want to face Su Yu King again. I was just about to say that I wouldn't go, but suddenly a thought crossed my mind. Since it was the birthday party of the Su family's eldest daughter, wouldn't there be tons of wealthy businessmen and elites attending? Dad casually replied, pretty much everyone there will be rich. If your father didn't have some friendship with old Master Su, our family probably wouldn't even be invited. The moment I heard that, my eyes instantly lit up. Wasn't this basically a perfect chance to make money? For the sake of completing the mission, I no longer cared about my dignity at all. The moment the 3 members of the Gu family arrived at the Su family's mansion, we immediately caused a huge commotion. China's #1 prodigal son, the undefeated king of wasting money for 10 straight years, the legendary man who once threw cash across Tianhai like confetti, had finally returned. Suddenly, a greasy-looking fat guy rushed over excitedly and hugged my leg. Young Master Gu, you're finally back. If you didn't return soon, I seriously wouldn't have been able to survive anymore. I was actually touched for a moment. The fat guy's name was Lu Hui. Back when I didn't even have money to eat, he was the one who secretly helped me out. He looked at me emotionally and complained, do you even know how miserable my life has become without you around? Without you serving as the comparison, my dad hates me more and more every day. Before, he only beat me once a week. Now he beats me 3 times a day. Brother, life is suffering. I immediately kicked him away and cursed, get lost. I'm not wasting money anymore. Starting today, I'm going to help the Gu family rise again. Lu Hui's tiny eyes widened in complete shock. What? You quit being a prodigal son? I couldn't even bother explaining to the fat guy anymore because at that moment, a girl wearing a moonlight-colored dress was angrily walking straight toward me. I instantly recognized her. Left with no choice, I turned around and forced a gentle smile onto my face. Yu Qing, long time no see. You've become even prettier. Su Yu Qing snorted coldly. I never thought you'd actually come back. I assumed you planned to stay overseas forever. I awkwardly laughed and replied, how could I do that? Since you've clearly been thinking about me this whole time, how could I stay abroad for too long? I rushed back on the earliest flight possible. At that moment, I was truly giving everything I had just to complete the system mission. Yu King, happy birthday. As I spoke, I took out a silver hairpin from my pocket. Originally, I had prepared it as a gift for my little cousin, but now I had no choice except to use it here instead. Su Yu King was originally furious when she saw me, but after I suddenly gave her the hairpin, she became completely flustered. Her face instantly turned red as she quietly accepted the gift before hurriedly running back into the house. Watching her leave, I couldn't help sighing to myself. This little girl had really grown more and more beautiful over the past 2 years. Then I suddenly remembered the marriage agreement, and the more I thought about it, the more I felt like I had suffered a huge loss back then. 50 million suddenly didn't seem worth it at all anymore. As I kept thinking about it, a flash of inspiration suddenly hit me, and I immediately chased after Su Yu Qing. In my mind, entering a noble young lady's room was perfectly normal behavior for a top-tier rich heir like me, so I confidently walked straight into Su Yu Qing's room without hesitation. At that moment, she was sitting there quietly playing with the silver hairpin I had given her and didn't even notice me entering. Then suddenly, a sharp scream echoed through the room. I quickly rushed forward and covered her mouth with my hand. Don't scream! I'm not a bad person! I definitely didn't want to attract everyone downstairs into this situation. Su Yu King's face turned completely red as she stared at me in panic. For a girl like her, this kind of scene was far beyond anything she had ever experienced before. After making sure she calmed down a little, I released my hand and awkwardly coughed. Actually, I wanted to discuss something with you. The marriage agreement I sold you 2 years ago was only a copy. The real one is still with me. For some reason, Su Yu King suddenly felt her heartbeat speeding up uncontrollably. In her mind, she couldn't help complaining about her father. Just because he got drunk once, he almost sold his daughter away to this notorious prodigal son. But at the same time, another thought quietly appeared in her heart. Somehow, I seemed much more handsome now than before. I casually smiled and continued, how about this? I won't ask for too much. Same price as before, 50 million. Transfer the money first, and once I get home, I'll bring you the original marriage contract so you can tear it up yourself. The moment she heard that, Su Yuqing exploded with anger. "You bastard! Get out!" Her furious scream instantly echoed through almost half the villa. When I awkwardly walked out of her room a few moments later, everyone nearby was staring at me with strange expressions. As expected of the legendary King of Prodigals, my courage truly was extraordinary. I forced an embarrassed smile and looked at Su Yuqing's father. "Uncle Su, if I said Yuqing and I were just discussing business, would you believe me?" "Believe my ass." The only response I saw was a fist the size of a sandbag flying straight toward my face. In the end, I sat through dinner with a giant black eye. Mom felt extremely sorry for me and kept applying medicine to my swollen eye throughout the meal, while Dad sat there looking completely delighted by my suffering. "You should have just focused on wasting money," he said happily. "Why did you have to provoke the Su family's little princess? Old Su did the right thing, beating you." I resentfully glanced toward Su Yuqing, only to discover that she was smugly making faces at me from across the room. That only made me feel even more depressed. By the time the banquet was almost over, I quietly took advantage of a moment when nobody was paying attention and sneaked over beside Su Yuqing again. "Yuqing, your house should have a microphone somewhere, right? Can I borrow it for a moment?" Su Yuqing felt that she absolutely shouldn't keep talking to me anymore, but for some reason, she still instinctively asked, "What do you need a microphone for?" I looked directly into her eyes with an unusually serious expression and spoke in a deep voice. "I have something extremely important to announce publicly. I want the entire world to know about it." The moment she heard that, Su Yuqing's face instantly heated up again. In her mind, she immediately started overthinking everything. Was I planning to publicly confess my feelings? But she wasn't mentally prepared for something like that at all. No wonder I had suddenly brought up the marriage agreement earlier. But then again, I was still a notorious prodigal son. Although, she had to admit that I was actually pretty handsome now. Even with a black eye, I somehow still looked good. In just a few seconds, countless thoughts flashed through the young girl's mind, leaving her completely frozen in place. I gently called out again, "Yuqing, can I?" She didn't even understand why, but she subconsciously nodded her head. "Where's the microphone?" She quietly pointed toward a cabinet not far away before lowering her head, too embarrassed to look at me anymore. At that moment, she was seriously wondering whether she should hide somewhere first because she genuinely wasn't ready for what she thought was about to happen. Unfortunately, I didn't notice any of the dramatic emotional changes happening inside her heart. After grabbing the microphone, I cleared my throat and directly spoke into it. "Good evening, uncles, aunties, brothers, and sisters." The moment my voice echoed through the hall, I once again became the center of everyone's attention. At that moment, Suluo quietly sat beside my father and looked at my parents in confusion. Meanwhile, Dad and Mom simply stared at each other with equally confused expressions because ever since I was little, they had never once successfully guessed what I was about to do next. Suluo glanced toward his daughter and noticed that Su Yuking's face was bright red and her expression extremely nervous. Instantly, he clenched his fists tightly in anger. In his heart, he swore that if this shameless brat dared to have any inappropriate thoughts about his daughter, he would personally punch my other eye swollen too. Holding the microphone, I calmly looked around at everyone before speaking again. Everyone thinks I'm just a prodigal son, but today I want to say that all of you are wrong. That's nothing more than the world's prejudice against me. Not only can I waste money, I can also earn it. Down below, Lu Hui scratched his head in confusion. Wait, is he seriously changing? If that happens, wouldn't I become the new #1 prodigal son? Ignoring everyone's reactions, I continued seriously. The moment I returned home, I learned that Jingchen Technology had gone bankrupt. That filled me with guilt. As the company's sole heir, I have the responsibility to save it. The wealthy guests immediately looked at each other with strange expressions. In their eyes, this whole speech sounded completely ridiculous. Save Xingchen Technology? Wasn't that just a fantasy? Even Su Yuqing looked at me with confusion. This clearly wasn't the kind of scene she had imagined earlier, and for some reason she suddenly felt a strange sense of disappointment inside her heart. Meanwhile, I tightened my grip on the microphone and slowly declared, "This time, I'm going to completely change the way all of you see me. I'll prove to the world that I'm not some useless prodigal son, but a once-in-a-generation genius. This time, I'm going to completely smash the faces of every single person who ever looked down on me." The moment I said that, the entire hall fell silent for a second before everyone started looking at me like I had gone insane. Nobody understood how I planned to save Xingchen Technology. I calmly continued, "It's simple. First, I'll pay off the debts, then I'll launch a highly profitable project." The moment those words came out, laughter instantly erupted throughout the entire hall. Everyone acted as if they had just heard the funniest joke in the world. Someone mockingly shouted, "Sounds easy enough, but do you even have money? Do you even have a project?" But I didn't care about their ridicule at all. As a future powerhouse, I had already gotten used to the doubts of ordinary people. I calmly looked around the room and said, "I know none of you are willing to lend money to our family, so instead, let's make a fair trade. I just checked our family assets. We still own several unused pieces of land and some properties. Starting now, anyone who pays 70% of the market value can buy them immediately. Cash only. First come, first served." The moment I finished speaking, the entire hall became completely silent. Everyone stared at me in disbelief. Then finally, someone burst out laughing. That one laugh quickly infected the entire crowd until the whole banquet hall became a sea of laughter. Only Lu Hui stood there with tears in his eyes as he looked at me emotionally. As expected of my brother, around us, countless people secretly glanced toward my parents with expressions full of admiration and sympathy. In their eyes, Mom and Dad were truly amazing parents for tolerating a son like me. Meanwhile, Dad and Mom both looked so embarrassed that they practically wanted to dig a hole and crawl into it. If circumstances allowed, they probably didn't even want to admit I was their son anymore. Completely ignoring everyone's reactions, I continued speaking confidently. No need to look at my parents. In this family, they listen to me. Anyone interested in buying should hurry up. This offer only exists today. Once it's gone forever. After all, land is always the most valuable asset, and houses are eternal necessities. So what are all of you still hesitating for? As I looked around, I could clearly see the greed and desire hidden in everyone's eyes. At that moment, the heavy burden in my heart finally disappeared. The cash-out plan had succeeded. Xingchen technology was finally saved. In less than half an hour, I sold off almost all of the Gu family's remaining assets and successfully gathered a full 3 billion in cash. That amount should be enough for now. Looking at the massive cash balance in the company account, Dad looked like he was on the verge of tears. In the end, he could only helplessly comfort himself by thinking that at least his son was trying to help the family. He silently decided to keep struggling with his old life for a little longer. Soon, someone raised a glass of champagne toward me with a smile. "Young Master Gu, you truly are the greatest philanthropist in Tianhai." People kept coming over to toast me with champagne, and I happily drank glass after glass. Uncle Bai smiled awkwardly and said, "Young Master Gu, you're too modest. What you're doing isn't charity, it's business." This was honestly the first time in my entire life someone had called me a great man. And strangely enough, it actually felt pretty good. Then I turned toward the crowd and casually added, "Since everyone here did business with me today, let me kindly remind you all. If you still want to buy shares of Star Technology, you'd better hurry. Otherwise, later on, you won't even have the chance anymore." The moment I finished speaking, several people instantly clutched their stomachs from laughing too hard before quickly saying goodbye to Su Luo and leaving one after another. Clearly, they felt if they stayed any longer, they would eventually die laughing at this prodigal rich kid. By the time most people had already left and my family was preparing to go too, Su Yu King suddenly grabbed my arm and pulled me into a room. Honestly, this wasn't even the first time anymore. Once the door closed, she looked at me seriously and asked, "Is your family really that short on money?" I nodded lightly. "Pretty much. You know Star Technology is already hanging by a thread. I have no choice but to do this." But Su Yu King frowned slightly and said, "My dad told me the problem with Star Technology isn't just money. Even if you do all this, will it really help?" I smiled calmly and patted my chest confidently. "Trust me, I'll turn Star Technology into the brightest star of all humanity." Su Yu King immediately rolled her eyes at me in the cutest way possible. After hesitating for a long time, she finally walked over to the bedside cabinet and took out a black bank card. She handed it to me while whispering softly, "This is all the allowance money I've saved over the past 2 years. It should be a little less than 60 million. The password is my birthday. I'm giving it to you." My eyes instantly lit up. Even though I felt embarrassed, I still shamelessly accepted the card. Seriously, this girl was way too kind. But at the same time, I was secretly shocked. She managed to save 60 million in just 2 years of allowance money? That was almost catching up to the old me already. I quickly promised her, "Don't worry about the engagement contract. I'll definitely return you the genuine version later. Absolutely authentic and priceless." Luckily, I ran fast enough right after saying that, otherwise my other eye probably would have been destroyed too. This round of selling assets not only helped me gather a huge amount of cash, but it also strangely increased my reputation points by 100. I honestly had no idea how the system calculated reputation. I had lost several billion from this deal, yet the reputation reward wasn't even as high as a random operation skill I performed once in the high school laboratory. While sitting in the car later, I finally found the chance to ask, "Dad, is the money enough?" Gu Guozhang immediately sighed helplessly. The problem with Star Technology was never just about money. The company has been stagnant for over half a year now. No orders and no projects. That's the real issue. I simply smiled calmly and patted my chest again. "Relax, Dad. You just focus on getting the company operating again. I'll bring you the orders." Gu Guozhang looked at me speechlessly. A child who had become sensible, but not completely sensible, was honestly the most troublesome kind. Early the next morning, I woke up unusually early. The moment I walked downstairs, I saw Gu Guozhang already dressed and ready to leave. "Dad, heading to the company?" He nodded seriously. "Yeah, time is tight now. Since things have already reached this point, your dad is going to give it one last fight." Hearing that honestly moved me deeply. Right there, I secretly swore to myself that I would definitely make my father the richest man in the world someday so he could enjoy life peacefully afterward. Before he left, I immediately reminded him, "Dad, while taking this chance, you should thoroughly clean up the company too. Get rid of all those parasites sucking the company dry. Then I added another sentence seriously. Gu Guozhang merely curled his lips slightly because even without me saying it, he had already planned to do exactly that. After this crisis, he had finally seen the true faces of many people around him. If Star Technology wanted to rise again, clearing out the rotten worms inside the company was absolutely necessary. Then I looked at him confidently and said, "As for projects, Dad, don't worry about it for now. Today I'm going to secure you a massive deal. Once I get it, we can make further plans." Dad suddenly stopped walking and stared at me like I had lost my mind. "Son, are you still half asleep? Go back upstairs and get some more rest. You're still growing at your age." But I had already grown used to people doubting me. I confidently waved my hand and declared, "Just wait for me. Tonight I'll bring back a contract from Longway Group." The moment he heard that, Dad immediately laughed. "Longway Group? That's a world top 500 company. You really dare to dream big." Even after arriving at the company, Dad still found my words ridiculous. Then he suddenly remembered that Longway Group happened to be holding a bidding conference in Tianhai today. Apparently, they were looking for 2 mobile phone assembly manufacturers. But with Xingchen Technology's current condition, we obviously weren't even qualified to compete for a project of that level. Dad shook his head and completely stopped taking my words seriously before quickly throwing himself back into work. Still, he had to admit that my reckless all-or-nothing gamble last night had somehow reignited some of the passion he once had when he first started his business years ago. Meanwhile, after finishing breakfast, I directly rented a shared bicycle and headed toward Longway Plaza in Tianhai. I had no other choice because all of our family's luxury cars had already been sold last night. Today wasn't just the bidding event either. Longway Group was also holding a major product launch conference, so the entire plaza was packed with industry insiders and reporters from all over the city. Looking at the massive crowd in front of me, I suddenly felt my blood boiling with excitement. A true man should stand at the peak of the world and overlook all its prosperity. Just as I was feeling heroic and full of ambition, a familiar sports car suddenly stopped beside me. "Young Master Gu, why are you here?" The person inside was Lu Hui, and the car he was driving happened to be one of the luxury cars he bought from my family garage this morning. Thankfully, the fat guy had at least purchased it above market price, which made him count as a genuinely charitable person in my eyes. I casually replied, "I came here to handle some business. What about you?" Lu Hui scratched his head and answered, "My family came here to participate in the bidding event. My dad insisted I come see the world." The moment I heard that, my eyes instantly lit up. "So that means you have an invitation from Longway Group?" I had been worrying about how to get inside, but unexpectedly, Lu Hui practically delivered himself to me. "Yeah," he nodded. "Dad gave me one. He said I should go observe Longway Group's technology." I immediately smiled and said, "Perfect. Then take me inside with you." Naturally, I sat directly in the passenger seat of his sports car. Lu Hui immediately panicked. "Wait, what are you going inside for?" I calmly replied, "To discuss some business with Longway Group. But you don't even have an invitation. I forgot to bring it." Compared to the lively atmosphere outside the plaza, the inside of the Longway building was much quieter. After all, not many companies actually qualified to participate in the bidding event. Since most of the attendees were local Tianhai businesses, everyone looked extremely confused when they saw me appear. "Young Master Gu, is Xingchen Technology also here to participate in the bidding?" Even though everyone already knew that was impossible, someone still deliberately asked the question. I calmly shook my head. "No, I'm here to discuss cooperation with Longway Group." The moment I said that, the entire room instantly became lively again. Honestly, wherever I went, there was never a shortage of jokes. Someone immediately laughed and asked mockingly, "Then may I ask what kind of cooperation young Master Gu plans to discuss with Longway Group?" I casually answered, "Developing a new smartphone together." At that moment, Yue Xiaofei walked into the room. The moment she saw the noisy atmosphere, she frowned slightly in dissatisfaction. The professionalism of Tianhai companies seems to be getting worse and worse. Then she sat down and directly got to the point. "I've already reviewed all the proposals your companies submitted. President Ren had to return to headquarters because I'll be hosting the product launch event outside shortly. So each company only has 3 minutes for additional explanations. Please value everyone's time." Yue Xiaofei had always been extremely efficient and straightforward. The moment I saw her, however, my eyes instantly lit up with joy. She was actually someone I knew personally. Today's luck really was amazing. Yue Xiaofei also noticed me sitting there. Although she looked confused about why this troublesome younger brother suddenly appeared here, she didn't say anything. She was far too busy to care about me at the moment. Half an hour later, Yue Xiaofei finally closed her laptop and calmly announced, "Once we have results, we'll notify everyone. Those interested in Longway Group's product launch event may head outside now. Seats have been reserved for all of you." Right at that moment, I suddenly stood up and shouted, "Sister Xiaofei, wait! I need to talk to you about something." Yue Xiaofei frowned slightly and corrected me coldly. "Mr. Gu, please address me as President Yue. Whatever it is, we can discuss it later. But I immediately shook my head seriously. No, it's urgent. Sister Xiaofei, I have a huge treasure I need to show you. The moment those words came out, everyone in the room instantly fell silent. In their eyes, only an idiot would say something like that in public. By that point, everyone had already gotten used to my ridiculous behavior. After returning to the office, Yue Xiaofei looked at me completely speechless before finally asking, "All right, say it. What exactly do you want?" I sat down calmly and answered, "Xingchen Technology wants to cooperate with Longwei Group." Yue Xiaofei immediately shook her head. Half a month ago, I already spoke with Uncle Gu. Honestly, bankruptcy was the best possible outcome for Xingchen Technology. There's no way I'd damage Longwei Group's interests just to help you. I wasn't bothered at all and simply smiled. Sister Xiaofei, do you know what graphene is? Of course, she replied casually. It's been a popular research topic in recent years, but materials like that are usually just exaggerated hype. I directly took out the graphene battery sample and placed it in front of her. I made this. It can truly achieve 2 minutes of charging for 5 hours of usage, and its energy storage capacity is 3 times higher than normal lithium batteries. Yue Xiaofei instantly frowned. Guchen, I didn't expect that besides wasting money, you also learned how to brag. But I simply looked at her seriously and asked, does Longwei Group have a laboratory here? Seeing how serious my expression was, Yue Xiaofei finally sighed helplessly and picked up the phone. Is Professor Wang still at the company? Tell him to wait for me in the laboratory. Then she narrowed her eyes at me and warned coldly, little brother, do you understand the consequences of wasting my time? 1 hour later, I proudly walked out of the building holding Longwei Group's preliminary cooperation agreement in my hand. My entire body was overflowing with confidence and excitement. Outside the building, Lu Hui immediately rushed over and asked, Young Master Gu, did Longwei Group really agree to cooperate with you? I casually smiled. Of course, they practically begged for it. Lu Hui clearly didn't believe a word I said. In his eyes, my reckless spending habits had always been caused by mental problems. But now it seemed like my condition had become even worse. Then he suddenly noticed something strange on my face. Wait, why is there a red mark on your cheek? The moment he asked that, my face instantly became awkwardly red. Honestly, it was all Yue Xiaofei's fault. That shameless woman completely lost control after the experiment succeeded and directly hugged me before kissing my cheek in excitement. It was absolutely outrageous behavior. I awkwardly coughed and replied, nothing serious. Sister Xiaofei just accidentally kissed me earlier. The moment Lu Hui heard that, he looked at me with deep sympathy. Young Master Gu, should I take you to the hospital? Forget it, I said helplessly. Just drive me home. That same day, Longwei Group's product launch event ended successfully. But compared to the launch itself, what truly shocked the business world was the announcement Yue Xiaofei made at the very end. Longwei Group would officially cooperate with Xingchen Technology to develop a revolutionary new smartphone. The entire business world instantly exploded into chaos. A massive corporation like Longwei Group, currently at the peak of its power, was suddenly cooperating with a company on the verge of bankruptcy and even boldly claiming they would create a revolutionary product. No matter how people looked at it, the situation felt unbelievably bizarre. The upper-class society of Tianhai immediately began discussing the matter everywhere. As for my father, he only learned about the news when several shareholders suddenly burst into his office to congratulate him. Old Gu, you really hid your cards well. You're unbelievable. We've been brothers for so many years, yet you never told us you had this kind of connection. With Longwei Group backing us, our brothers can definitely rise again and rebuild our glory. Old Gu, don't worry. Just focus on expanding boldly. We'll support you completely. Whatever you need us to do, just say the word. Listening to those people enthusiastically calling themselves brothers, Dad could only stand there speechless. Just a few months ago, these same people wouldn't even meet him in person. Now suddenly they were acting like loyal friends again. Honestly, these so-called brothers were far too unreliable. Dad instantly realized that Xingchen Technology desperately needed a complete internal cleanup. But after a while, another group of people began showing completely different attitudes. One shareholder angrily pointed at Dad and shouted, Gu Guozhang, you really are heartless. I truly misjudged you after all these years. Another sneered coldly, don't think that just because you attached yourself to Longwei Group, everything will be smooth from now on. Their standards are incredibly strict. Xingchen Technology is just waiting to embarrass itself. Someone else mocked even more harshly. Exactly. Don't celebrate too early, Gu Guozhang. With that prodigal son of yours around, no matter how much money you earn, he'll waste it all sooner or later. Dad simply leaned back in his chair and couldn't even be bothered arguing with those people anymore. After throwing everyone out of the office, he immediately rushed home. Even though he still refused to believe that Longwei Group's cooperation had anything to do with me, the timing was just too strange. Early that morning, I had confidently declared that I would go secure a contract from Longwei Group. And then by afternoon, Longwei Group publicly announced during their product launch event that they would cooperate with Xingchen Technology. No matter how he thought about it, The whole situation felt suspiciously unbelievable. By the time Dad arrived home, I was sitting there with an excited expression while holding a laptop and constantly typing away at something. In reality, I was secretly testing just how capable I had truly become after the system enhancements. Although the system kept insisting that a base stat of 60 points already surpassed the vast majority of people on Earth, I still wanted to personally verify whether those abilities were actually as incredible as it claimed. Since everything had gone smoothly today, I hurried back home to properly test my abilities, and the results left me extremely satisfied. I found several advanced competition-level problems in mathematics, physics, and chemistry, yet I solved all of them effortlessly without encountering even the slightest difficulty. But what shocked me the most was my language ability. No matter what region a language or text came from, the moment I heard or saw it, I could instantly understand it perfectly. It was ridiculously overpowered. I threw my head back and burst into laughter. So this was what being a genius felt like. It was unbelievably satisfying. Just then, Dad suddenly walked in and stared at me with a worried expression. "What's wrong with you? Did you really go to Longway Group today? Did they bully you or something?" Seeing Dad enter, I calmly closed the laptop and returned to a composed expression before casually pulling a wrinkled document out from under my butt. I handed the file over to him and said, "What are you talking about? Why would Longway Group bully me? That's the preliminary cooperation agreement between Xingchen Technology and Longway Group. Take a look first. You should head over there within 3 days to sign the official contract." Dad's face instantly darkened. Something this important was sitting under your butt? But he didn't even have time to scold me because the moment he looked at the contents, his expression completely changed. After reading through it once, he sucked in a cold breath. It was actually a real cooperation agreement. Not manufacturing work, not outsourcing, a true equal partnership. Dad looked completely stunned. How is this even possible? Then he hurriedly asked, "Who exactly signed this agreement with you?" I casually replied, "Sister Xiao Fei, isn't her name written on it?" Speaking of which, she's already become vice president of the group. Looks like the Yue family is seriously preparing her to inherit everything. But Dad still looked unable to understand reality. Yue Xiao Fei? That terrifyingly smart girl who even scares me actually signed this kind of agreement with you? Then suddenly his expression became strange. "Son, don't tell me she forced you into some kind of condition or deal?" I instantly rolled my eyes and shoved the laptop toward him. "What nonsense are you thinking about? Does your son look like the type to sell his body? I used this technology to make the deal." On the laptop was the graphene battery data. Xingchen Technology will share this technology with Longway Group, and together will develop their next flagship smartphone. This is how we rebuild Xingchen Technology's reputation. Dad stopped speaking entirely. At that moment, he had already become completely absorbed in the graphene battery research documents. Nearly half an hour passed before he finally finished reading everything, but even then, his emotions still couldn't calm down. The impact of that research paper was no less shocking than the Longway cooperation agreement itself. Now he finally understood why Yue Xiaofei agreed to sign the contract so quickly. If he were in her position, he would probably cooperate no matter what it cost. The next second, Dad suddenly rushed into my room excitedly and grabbed my shoulders. "Son, where exactly did you get this from? Don't tell me you robbed some top-tier American laboratory or something." Hearing that instantly made me unhappy. "Dad, I've never doubted your ability to make money. So how can you doubt your son's genius? I researched this myself." The moment those words came out, Dad felt like he had just heard the most outrageous sentence of his entire life. Nothing else even came close. Even though he had no idea how I managed to develop something like this, he still became so excited that he started pacing around the room non-stop. Only after a long time did he finally calm down a little. Then suddenly another thought hit him. "Wait, son? I think we suffered a massive loss here. How could you agree to share such incredible technology with Longway Group for free?" I immediately put on a righteous expression and declared seriously, "Because I have a patriotic heart." Then I confidently continued, "Dad, don't worry. This thing is just a small toy. In less than 2 years, it'll be replaced by even more advanced technology anyway. We didn't lose anything. Besides, showing this level of sincerity means Longway Group will genuinely value us too. That way, Xingchen Technology can rise much faster." Dad froze completely after hearing that. Better replacement technology. The level of information I was casually revealing had already gone far beyond his imagination. But I wasn't finished yet. I excitedly continued describing my grand future plans. In the future, Xingchen Technology won't just make smartphones. We'll build quantum computers, aerospace technology, interstellar warships, planetary engines, everything. Dad stood there looking completely dizzy before finally patting my shoulder emotionally. "Good son, you've really grown up." Then he suddenly became serious again. "Originally, I was thinking of saving some money and only sending you to an average school. But seeing how ambitious you are now, I've decided I must send you to a top university even if it costs a fortune." Hearing that instantly made me laugh. Someone like me, a once-in-a-generation genius, still needed to spend money to get into school? Right at that moment, another ding echoed inside my head as the system released a brand new mission. Host is still a child under 18 years old. Go attend university and fully display your talents. Crush all the geniuses of your generation, just like the great pioneers before you. Mission objective: pass the entrance examination for Qingbei Academy with perfect scores in every subject. Mission reward: 10,000 fame value, 1 charm point, 1 freshman gift pack, and 2 5 million value mall vouchers usable only for purchases made with wealth value. While I was checking the mission details, Dad was already seriously considering suitable schools for me. Tianhai Finance University is close to home, he muttered to himself. But it's expensive. Last time Old Song donated an entire building just to get his son admitted. Kyoto University is a little too far from home, but the tuition is still acceptable. Shijing University is also pretty good. Several of my friends got their kids in through donations. Before Dad could continue choosing schools for me, I directly interrupted him. I want to go to Qingbei Academy. Dad instantly froze. At that moment, he genuinely felt like today's shocks would never end. Qingbei Academy was the #1 university in all of China, and ranked among the top 20 universities in the world. Anyone capable of entering that school was considered a true genius among geniuses. Naturally, a top-tier academy like that was incredibly difficult to enter. Qingbei Academy never participated in China's national entrance examination system. Every year they created their own exams and selected students independently. But before even taking the test, candidates first needed to receive an official invitation from Qingbei itself. That single step alone eliminated 99% of applicants. Then, among the 10,000 students who actually qualified for the exam, only around 500 would ultimately be admitted. Every one of them was an absolute monster among top students. So after hearing me casually say I wanted to enter Qingbei Academy, Dad's emotions became extremely complicated. If this had happened in the past, he definitely would have immediately told me to give up such an unrealistic dream. But now things were different. After all, I had literally created a small graphene battery capable of changing the industry. Maybe I really was a genius after all. Perhaps letting me try wouldn't hurt. Even if I failed, at least it would still be valuable experience. The only problem was the invitation letter. Besides the normal entrance exam, Qingbei also had special admissions for students with extraordinary talents. But unfortunately, the application period for that had already ended. And besides, what exactly was my special talent? Was Dad supposed to take the graphene battery research and personally contact Qingbei professors? But doing that might damage Xingchen Technology's partnership with Longwei Group. The more Dad thought about it, the more troublesome the situation became. Maybe after the product launch, we can contact the university, he muttered. Would they recognize your abilities then? I could already tell what Dad was struggling with, so I smiled helplessly and reminded him, Dad, I think you misunderstood me. I'm not planning to enter Qingbei through special admission. I'm going to pass the exam fair and square. Dad's eyes widened instantly. Son, do you even know how difficult that exam is? Every single subject requires top-tier scores. I know you're talented in chemistry and electronic materials now, but what about the other subjects? I immediately looked offended. You're seriously doubting your son's genius? Since I was little, when have I ever disappointed you in an exam? Dad silently nodded for a second before suddenly reacting. Wait a minute. From childhood until now, you barely even participated in exams at all. Most of the time, the moment exam season arrived, you were already taking a vacation somewhere. Then he sighed helplessly. Anyway, Qingbei's invitation letters are basically all distributed already. Where am I even supposed to find one now? I calmly smiled. Dad, did you forget my identity? I'm an overseas student. The invitations they finished distributing are mostly domestic invitations. There should still be overseas invitations available, right? St. Virtue High School is one of the top schools in the United States. Considering my excellent conduct and grades there, getting one invitation shouldn't be difficult. The moment Dad heard that, his heart twitched violently. Honestly, this troublesome son really had endless ways of causing problems. Are you really determined to take the exam? He asked seriously. I absolutely am. Dad finally nodded. All right, then prepare properly and relax. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Even if you fail, it's fine. Your father is already used to disappointment by now. Hearing that, I could only shake my head helplessly. The road to proving the existence of a true genius was truly long and difficult. After discussing university matters with me, Dad quickly left the room again to negotiate further cooperation details with Longwei Group, reorganize the company laboratories, remove internal corruption, and shift Xingchen Technology's business priorities. During this period, he became so busy that he barely even had time to sleep anymore. Compared to him, my life was much more relaxed. After casually looking through previous year's Qingbei entrance exams, I immediately felt reassured. Honestly, were these kinds of questions really enough to select the so-called elite geniuses of China? Over the next few days, I also kept myself busy. Using my computer skills, I suddenly became famous throughout the hacker world almost overnight. Unfortunately, because I never used my real name, I didn't receive any fame value from it. Of course, I wasn't doing it for fame anyway, I was doing it to make money. Even though I had already decided to use only fame value to level up the system, I still needed some pocket money for daily expenses. I hacked into Alibaba and Penguin, the two giant internet companies, helped them repair several long-standing security vulnerabilities, and successfully earned a total commission of 20 million. On top of that, I even became a shared hacker consultant for both companies. Honestly, those internet giants were unbelievably rich. No wonder so many people wanted to study computer science. At the same time, my actions spread wildly throughout the hacker community. Countless experts began worshipping me like an idol and even gave me a nickname, Dog God. Meanwhile, Mom became increasingly worried, seeing me lock myself inside the house every day while staring at a computer without spending any money. "Is this really still our son?" she muttered more than once. But honestly, I was too lazy to explain anything. As for Dad, he was already so busy every day that he didn't even have time to sleep, let alone monitor what I was doing. Finally, the day of Qingbei Academy's entrance examination arrived. Carrying only 2 pens, I casually rode a shared bicycle straight toward the examination center early in the morning. According to the admissions announcement, including the small number of invitations reserved for overseas students, Qingbei Academy had only distributed around 300 invitation letters in all of Tianhai this year. But when I arrived at Tianhai High School, the city's only testing center, I was instantly stunned. The place was completely packed with people. Forget 300 candidates. There were probably over 3,000 people gathered there. Tianhai High School hadn't even suspended classes either. I stood there completely confused until I suddenly ran into Lu Hui nearby. He immediately explained everything. "Young Master Gu, I already heard rumors that you were going to take the Qingbei exam, but I honestly didn't expect it to be true. Seriously, how do you always come up with so many different ways to waste money?" Hearing that, I could only helplessly look up toward the sky and sigh. The prejudice created over these past 10 years really ran far too deep. It seemed the prejudice built over the past 10 years really wasn't something that could disappear overnight. I didn't even bother explaining myself anymore and instead looked at Lu Hui curiously. "What about you? Don't tell me you're also here to take the exam." Lu Hui immediately shook his head. "How could I possibly be as brave as you, young Master Gu? I'm just here to absorb some genius aura. My dad said that everyone taking this exam today is basically a god among top students. Maybe if I absorb some of their luck, I'll perform better in next month's National College entrance exam." I looked at the huge crowd around us and couldn't help laughing. You really thought this through, but there are way too many people here trying to absorb this so-called genius aura. There are only 300 actual candidates. I'm not sure there's enough luck to go around. Lu Hui immediately looked at me with disdain. "Young Master Gu, you obviously don't count." Then he sighed dramatically. "Looks like I'm truly unlucky. The moment I arrived, I ran into you, so now my chances of absorbing any genius aura are gone." Then he suddenly remembered something and added, "By the way, our family got one of Longwei Group's manufacturing contracts. From now on, we'll probably have plenty of business dealings with Xingchen Technology." I smiled and nodded. "Really? Then congratulations." But Lu Hui didn't look very excited. Instead, he mysteriously lowered his voice and asked, "Young Master Gu, how exactly did Xingchen Technology climb onto Longwei Group's ship? This has already become the #1 mystery in Tianhai's business world." I instantly corrected him. "What do you mean climb onto their ship? Longwei Group practically begged to cooperate with us, alright? Xingchen Technology's strength is far beyond your imagination." Obviously, Lu Hui didn't believe me at all. Instead, he looked around cautiously before whispering, "Young Master Gu, have you heard the rumors going around lately?" I frowned. "What rumors?" Lu Hui immediately grinned. "Everyone's saying Yue Xiaofei fell for you. Apparently, she spent 7 days and 7 nights with you just to help clear your reputation as a prodigal son. That's why Longwei Group agreed to save Xingchen Technology." The moment I heard that, I almost exploded. Which bastard started spreading nonsense like that? Do I look like that kind of person? I'd rather sell my soul than sell my body. Lu Hui immediately nodded seriously. "Of course I believe you, brother. But you've disappeared for days lately, and honestly, you have to admit your appearance really does suit the role of being kept by a rich woman." Honestly, even before the system upgraded my charm, I was already constantly ranked first on the rich women's favorite young master lists online. After the charm enhancement, things became even more outrageous. Even Lu Hui now admitted I was handsome. At that moment, I genuinely felt like crying. I was at home making money this whole time, but Lu Hui only patted my shoulder sympathetically. "I understand. You were definitely working hard to make money. Brother, you've suffered too much. Looks like I really should control my spending habits in the future. I absolutely can't follow in your footsteps. I directly kicked the stupid fat guy and stopped bothering with him anymore before heading into the school to find my examination room. But outside the examination hall, I unexpectedly ran into another familiar face, Su Yu-king. Unlike me, who only barely managed to get an invitation at the last minute, Su Yu-king was a true top student from childhood. She was the perfect other people's child that parents always praised. The moment she saw me, her expression became extremely complicated. First she looked happy, then angry, then wronged, and finally she just sighed softly as countless emotions filled her heart all at once. Unfortunately, I was completely clueless about everything going on in her mind. I simply smiled brightly and greeted her naturally. Yu-ting, how's your preparation going? With your abilities, this exam shouldn't be a problem at all. Looks like after 6 years, we're finally going to become classmates again. Then I proudly added, don't worry, even though I always bullied you in elementary school, once we get to university, I'll definitely protect you. Hearing that only made Su Yu-king even more irritated. She didn't even know what exactly she was angry about anymore. Was it my ridiculous confidence, my carefree attitude, or those rumors about Yue Xiaofei? In the end, she angrily stomped her foot before walking into the examination hall. But just before entering, she suddenly turned around and said seriously, just focus on taking the exam properly. Treat this as practice for next month's college entrance exam. After Qingbei's independent admissions ended, regular students would still participate in the national entrance examination afterward. I immediately felt dissatisfied. This woman really looks down on me. Then I secretly muttered to myself, once we get to university, if you run into questions you can't solve, don't come crying to me for help. Unless you pay me at least several million, I definitely won't forgive you. But Su Yu-king immediately became angry again. Gu Chen, can you be serious for once? The unified exams are next week. Don't you still want to study at Yandu University? Seeing me staring at her instead of focusing on studying made her both anxious and angry. In her eyes, boys were truly hopeless creatures who never matured properly. If you want a good future, then you need to work hard now, she lectured me seriously. Otherwise, how are we supposed to stay together in the future? Hearing that, I immediately wiped the drool from the corner of my mouth and innocently replied, I am serious. Yu-ting, you're just way too pretty, so I accidentally got distracted for a second. Su Yu-king instantly felt helpless again. Honestly, she truly had no way to deal with a shameless bastard like me. If you fail to get into a university in Yandu, then I'll ignore you forever, she threatened angrily. At that point, we'll barely even get to see each other anymore. I immediately grabbed her hand and confidently said, relax, won't Qingbei announce the exam results tomorrow? Once the results are out, you'll understand. I'm definitely going to Qingbei with you. Then I thoughtfully added, actually, what major do you think I should choose? Maybe I should join the medical department with you. That way I can protect you from idiots trying to chase after you. Su Yu-king puffed her cheeks angrily. I already told you to stop fantasizing and be more realistic. But honestly, even when she was angry, she still looked unbelievably cute. It really felt like heaven had favored Su Yu-king far too much. While the two of us continued nervously preparing for the upcoming exams, the Qingbei Academy online forums had already exploded with discussions about the examination results that would be released the next day. In fact, ever since the exam ended, the hype surrounding this year's Qingbei admissions test had never died down. Because according to everyone, this year's exam was supposedly the hardest in Qingbei's entire history. Even second and third year Qingbei students who tried solving the questions afterwards struggled just to understand them within the time limit. Countless people online were already predicting that this year, the number of candidates who could even pass the exam would probably be terrifyingly low. According to everyone's predictions, simply passing this year's Qingbei exam would already be enough to enter Qingbei Academy. Normally, candidates needed to score at least 70% because everyone taking the exam was already a top student or academic monster from their respective regions. But this year was completely different. If someone managed to score above 70% this time, they would probably have a chance at entering the top 100 candidates. And if someone somehow reached 80%, then in previous years, that person would already have been a serious contender for the title of Holy Son. As for scores above 90%, almost nobody believed any student this year could achieve something so terrifying. After all, Qingbei intentionally designed this year's exam to be absurdly difficult. With competition becoming increasingly intense across the country, Qingbei wanted to discover true geniuses and see just how much potential the younger generation really possessed. Because of the insane difficulty of this year's exam, everyone online became extremely obsessed with discussing who would become this year's Holy Son. Even the moderator of the Qingbei forums personally made a post saying, "This year's Holy Sun will be the most valuable and legendary Holy Sun in Qingbei's history. No exceptions." Under this overwhelming hype, people became even more excited and curious about the final results. The talented students previously predicted to have a chance at becoming Holy Sun were constantly harassed by reporters and media companies from all over the country. The only unfortunate thing was that nobody managed to find Su Yuqing. Naturally, the reporters in Tianhai never could have imagined that the genius girl they were desperately searching for had actually been tutoring me every single day recently. "Give them a little more time," someone posted online. Wasn't there a student in Tianhai who handed in his exam early and even claimed the questions were easy and that he could score full marks effortlessly? Could that guy secretly be this year's Holy Sun? But the next comment instantly mocked him. "The guy upstairs is definitely drunk. Don't mind him. I know exactly who he's talking about." That person is Tianhai's famous prodigal son. He's notorious for being uneducated. Rumor says he even bought his exam invitation with money. How could someone like him possibly become Holy Sun? Then another comment followed. "Stop guessing. We'll know the results tomorrow anyway." While the internet exploded with endless discussions and debates, my own life remained peaceful and relaxed. Honestly, there was nothing worth discussing at all. I had literally used a problem-solving card from the system as a cheat tool during the exam. If I still couldn't become Holy Sun after that, then wouldn't all the system's modifications have been completely useless? Since Su Yuqing planned to check the exam results today, she generously gave me a day off from studying so she could sleep in peacefully for once. Honestly, I was already starting to wonder what kind of expression she would make after seeing my name on the rankings. Suddenly, the system's notification sound woke me up from bed. "Congratulations, host, for completing the main mission. Successfully admitted into Qingbei Academy with perfect scores. Mission rewards have been distributed. Join China's #1 academy and continue your legendary journey." I immediately sat up from bed and opened the system interface. Host, Gu Chen. Manufacturing level, level 2. Fame value, 10,500. Wealth value, 28.62 million. Appearance, 90. Basic science abilities. Mathematics, 61. Physics, 60. Chemistry, 60. Biology, 60. Information technology, 60. Language, 100. The moment I saw my fame value surpass 10,000 points, I became unbelievably satisfied. Main storyline missions really were amazing. I had casually taken one exam and instantly earned over 10,000 fame value. That meant I could now increase my basic science abilities by another 10 points. If I completed a few more missions like this, wouldn't my growth become ridiculously overpowered? But after calming down slightly, I quickly realized something important. Since I had gained so much fame value at once, it obviously meant my identity as the perfect score Holy Sun had already spread everywhere. I definitely needed to prepare for the incoming chaos. I quickly rushed downstairs where Mom was preparing lunch. "Where's Dad?" I asked. "At work," Mom replied in confusion. "Why?" Without wasting time, I immediately took out my phone. "I'll call him myself. There'll probably be a huge number of reporters looking for me at the company today. He needs to strengthen security immediately. Also, people will definitely come to our house too, so the neighborhood security guards need advance notice." Mom instantly became nervous. "Good son, what exactly happened?" I simply grinned. "Mom, don't you know? Today is the day Qingbei Academy releases the exam results." Mom blinked blankly. "I know that, but what does that have to do with our family?" I casually replied, "Nothing much. I just performed normally and got a perfect score. I became this year's Holy Sun." Then I suddenly remembered something and excitedly added, "Right, I should go check how many points Yu King scored." Without waiting for Mom's reaction, I immediately rushed back upstairs, leaving her completely frozen in place. Her son, Gu Chen, the perfect score Holy Sun of Qingbei Academy. To her, the entire thing sounded like some ridiculous fantasy joke. Meanwhile, inside the Su family mansion, Su Yuqing was also staring at the official score rankings with an expression that looked like she had just seen a ghost. She rubbed her eyes repeatedly in disbelief. How is this possible? Am I seeing things? Or did Qingbei's system make a mistake? But she knew very well that perfect score exam papers went through multiple rounds of verification, including review of surveillance footage during the examination. There was absolutely no chance of a grading error. Not far from the Su family, inside the Lin family residence, Lin Churan had completely collapsed onto the floor. The moment she remembered the bet she made with me earlier, her face instantly turned pale with despair. "It's over. Completely over," she muttered hopelessly. "If I confess to him now, wouldn't that make me the kind of horrible woman who steals her best friend's man? Gu Chen really is a bastard." At the same time, Dad was currently inside the company meeting room discussing my proposal to establish a dedicated patent management company when suddenly an employee rushed in nervously. "President Gu, there are tons of media reporters outside the company right now. Even Tianhai television station is here." The lobby is practically blocked off. They all say they want to interview you and request exclusive coverage. Security can barely hold them back. Dad froze in confusion for a second, before suddenly realizing something. The moment Dad heard reporters had surrounded the company, his expression instantly changed. His first thought was that the graphene battery technology had somehow leaked, but that made no sense. The battery was still undergoing internal security testing in the laboratory, and they hadn't even started practical device installation tests yet. There was no way Longway Group would expose the technology this early, right? The secretary nervously continued. Those reporters are refusing to leave downstairs. They insist on meeting President Gu today and scheduling interviews immediately. Dad quickly calmed himself and ordered, "Take them to the reception room first." Then he frowned and asked, "But what exactly are they trying to interview us about?" Xingchen Technology just escaped bankruptcy. Right now, we practically have nothing worth reporting. The little secretary looked equally confused. Everything downstairs is a complete mess right now. I rushed up here too quickly and didn't ask carefully, but it seems related to young Master Gu. They kept mentioning something about him becoming a holy son. The moment those words came out, not only Dad but everyone inside the meeting room turned toward the secretary in shock. Dad's voice even trembled slightly. "Xiao Hong, what did you just say? Holy son?" At that moment, an unbelievable thought suddenly appeared in Dad's mind. Could it be that his prodigal son was actually telling the truth all along? Did that brat really get into Qingbei Academy? And not only get in, but actually become the holy son? One of the younger managers immediately opened his laptop and searched the rankings online. Dad practically rushed over to the screen. Then everyone saw it clearly. First place, Guchen, Tianhai City. Total score, 350. The young manager slowly turned toward Dad and asked carefully, "President Gu, are there any other people in Tianhai with the exact same name as young Master Gu?" Before Dad could answer, another trusted subordinate suddenly shouted excitedly, "It's definitely young Master Gu! When I helped buy the invitation letter before, that was exactly the name written on it. Because it was obtained so late, his examination number was also assigned near the back." The next second, Dad burst into loud laughter. "I knew it! I knew Gu Chen would never disappoint me. Isn't it just Qingbei Academy? My son casually conquered it." The entire meeting room instantly exploded into congratulations. Congratulations to young Master Gu for becoming holy son. His future is limitless. Congratulations, President Gu. This is truly incredible news. President Gu, shouldn't we celebrate something this big? Dad was obviously in an unbelievably good mood. He immediately waved his hand proudly. "Of course we should celebrate. Xiaohong, notify everyone immediately. To celebrate my son getting into Qingbei Academy, all Xingchen Technology employees will receive 3 days of paid leave with double salary, and everyone's monthly performance bonus will increase by 20%. The little secretary instantly became ecstatic. President Gu is amazing! Honestly, outsiders envied Xingchen Technology because of the Longway Group partnership, but only the company employees truly understood how terrifyingly busy they had been lately. Right now, hearing they suddenly gained an extra 3-day vacation felt like heaven itself had descended. But one manager hesitated nervously and reminded him, "President Gu, Longway Group is pushing the project schedule extremely hard. Isn't giving everyone 3 days off a little too much?" Dad simply waved his hand indifferently. "It's fine, I'll personally explain things to Yue Xiaofei." Meanwhile, after hearing that I had actually entered Qingbei Academy as holy son, I honestly became curious about the Yue family's reaction. The relationship between the Gu family and the Yue family originally came through Mom's side of the family. In reality, many members of the Yue family looked down on both Dad and me, especially since I carried the reputation of being a prodigal son. Of course, Yue Xiaofei herself was an exception. That woman only cared about appearances. As long as someone matched her aesthetic taste, she didn't care how much money they wasted. In fact, Yue Xiaofei had always spoiled me a lot, which was precisely why so many ridiculous rumors appeared after Longway Group announced its cooperation with Xingchen Technology. But honestly, if I truly wanted to marry into the Yue family, it would basically be impossible under the Yue family's strict rules. Especially now, when the Yue family clearly intended to cultivate Yue Xiaofei as their next successor. Under those circumstances, they would never seriously accept a small figure like me. Of course, becoming Yue Xiaofei's secret little puppy on the side was still theoretically possible. As long as I didn't openly cause trouble, those true upper-class elites probably wouldn't care too much anyway. In Yue Xiaofei's memories, I had always been that little brat who followed behind her everywhere, constantly trying to make her happy before shamelessly asking for pocket money. And now that same kid had actually gotten into Qingbei Academy and even become the holy son. Honestly, even she found it hard to believe. But after the initial shock, pride, and happiness faded slightly, a playful smile slowly appeared on her face. A perfect score, holy son, from the hardest Qingbei exam in history. And on top of that, a publicly recognized prodigal son. She quietly laughed to herself. "Little brother, Once people start digging into your past, you're definitely going to have plenty of trouble. And just as Yue Xiaofei predicted, the backlash and controversy arrived even faster and more violently than expected. Outside the Gu family villa district, massive crowds had already gathered. There were reporters, classmates, friends of my parents, and even students preparing for the national entrance exam who came hoping to absorb some genius aura. Thankfully, our neighborhood was considered a wealthy residential district with highly professional security personnel. Combined with the fact that I had already informed security in advance, the crowd still hadn't managed to rush into my house. But honestly, opportunities to show off like this didn't come often, and I was never the type of person who liked hiding from attention. That would simply be too rude. So after carefully washing up, styling my hair, and changing into clean, handsome clothes, I called over 7 or 8 bodyguards and confidently walked toward the front gate. "Gu-chen is coming out!" Several female students who recognized me instantly screamed excitedly. "Wow, so this is the Holy Son? He's so handsome." Another girl sighed helplessly. "Stop dreaming. A rich heir like him would never notice ordinary girls like us." Someone else immediately whispered, "Besides, I heard he's already being kept by Longwei Group's little princess." Honestly, I had no idea that I was once again unintentionally breaking the hearts of countless girls. The moment I reached the gate, the reporters holding microphones and voice recorders instantly charged toward me like starving wolves. If the electric security gate hadn't been blocking them, I genuinely felt they might have eaten me alive on the spot. "Student Gu, how do you feel about becoming this year's Holy Son?" "Student Gu, the exam was said to be impossibly difficult this year. How did you manage to achieve a perfect score? We heard you spent 2 years studying abroad during high school. Does this prove foreign education is superior to domestic education?" "Young Master Gu, I'm from Tianyu Media. Our young master knows you personally. Could we possibly schedule an exclusive interview?" Seeing the chaotic scene, I calmly cleared my throat and raised a hand to quiet everyone down. "Everyone, relax. Inside our residential district, there's a small plaza. I've already prepared seats, tea, and drinks for all of you there. You can slowly ask whatever questions you want." The crowd instantly felt touched. Honestly, they hadn't even been invited here, yet I still thoughtfully prepared things for them. What a kind person. But before everyone could become too emotional, I casually added another sentence. Of course, the plaza isn't very large and preparing everything took some effort, so spots are limited. There are only 25 seats available. Entry costs 10,000 per person, and each media company can only send in 2 people. As I spoke, I directly pulled out a payment QR code. "Just scan this code to pay." Very convenient. Instantly, every reporter froze in disbelief. What the hell? Was business really done like this nowadays? Weren't people always calling me a prodigal son? Then why did it suddenly feel like I was bullying honest people instead? One reporter immediately protested, "Young Master Gu, isn't this a little unethical?" I instantly laughed. "The very first public interview of Qingbei Academy's Holy Son, and I'm only charging you 10,000. That's already a bargain price. If people found out I charged less, wouldn't everyone say I'm still a prodigal son wasting opportunities?" Then I casually waved my hand. "Anyway, there are only 25 spots. If you don't want one, please leave voluntarily." One angry self-media reporter instantly cursed, "Damn it! A rich second-generation heir using interviews to scam money? This is outrageous. Let's go. Who cares what he says? I can just make things up myself." I didn't care at all, and calmly replied, "Sure, you can absolutely go online and make up random stories. I honestly can't stop you. But fake stories only attract short-term traffic. If you really want to survive in this industry long-term, then eventually you'll need some integrity, right? Fake stories can never compare to real information." Then I smiled brightly and reminded everyone again, "Let me repeat this one last time. This is Qingbei Holy Son's very first public group interview. Once you miss it, you'll never get another chance." The moment those words came out, several larger media companies immediately understood the value behind them and quickly started calling their bosses to request extra budget approvals. Others directly paid out of their own pockets first and hurriedly scanned my QR code. Watching the reporters desperately fighting to get to the front and pay first, my heart suddenly trembled. Damn it. I really should have researched the market price beforehand. This business deal suddenly felt like a huge loss. When the reporters realized there weren't enough seats for everyone, the competition became even crazier. Looking at the scene, my heart hurt even more. The price was obviously too low. I needed to raise it immediately. Thankfully, my face was thick enough to shamelessly adjust the deal on the spot. I quickly spoke again. "Seeing everyone so enthusiastic truly makes me happy. So how about this? I'll give you all another special benefit. If you add just 20,000 more, I'll allow real-time live streaming during the interview. That way, everyone can capture the very first wave of pure traffic." The entire crowd instantly stared at me in disbelief. This guy was way too shameless. But despite my outrageous price increase, Nobody actually had any choice. After all, secretly live streaming later probably wouldn't end well considering the huge bodyguards standing around me looked more than capable of beating people up. Still, when I looked at the extra hundreds of thousands suddenly appearing in my account balance, I felt very satisfied. Even mosquito meat was still meat. Ever since activating the system, I had already understood that my life would forever revolve around chasing fame and wealth. After all, the dog system only recognized those two things. Finally, after arriving at the small plaza inside the neighborhood, the reporter's expressions instantly became even darker. The so-called prepared seats were just cheap little plastic stools, while the tea and drinks consisted of bottled water and giant buckets of tea. Honestly, the total setup probably didn't even cost 500 yuan. This was practically robbery. But I completely ignored everyone's complaints and calmly walked forward with a microphone in hand before sitting comfortably on a sofa placed beneath a sun umbrella like some kind of celebrity king about to hold a press conference. I picked up the microphone, cleared my throat, and said loudly, "I'm sure nobody wants to waste too much time, so let's keep this efficient. Each media company gets one question only, and please try not to repeat questions. We'll finish everything within half an hour." The moment I said that, everyone nearly exploded with anger. 3,000 yuan for a single question, and now I was even limiting them to one each? This was practically robbery. So before the interview officially started, the reporters immediately began discussing strategies among themselves, trying to avoid overlapping questions so nobody would waste money. 10 minutes later, the interview finally began. The reporters had obviously realized that asking boring questions like, "How do you feel? How did you prepare for the exam? Do you have advice for younger students?" or "What major do you want to study?" would be a complete waste of money. Since each question cost so much, everyone naturally wanted explosive and controversial topics. Soon, a young female reporter with a flushed face nervously stood up first. "Student Gu Chen, according to what I know, your grades from middle school through high school were always average. Yet now you suddenly became Holy Son with a perfect score. Did you use any improper methods?" Hearing that, I instantly laughed. "Wow, you're starting aggressively already." Then I calmly replied, "No." The entire crowd froze. That was it? No explanation? No defense? The female reporter looked stunned. "Student Gu Chen, you..." But before she could continue, I directly interrupted her. "This friend, I already answered your question. Next." Another reporter immediately stood up. "Longwei Group has always maintained a close relationship with Qingbei Academy. Your Gu family just reached a partnership agreement with Longwei Group, and suddenly you became Holy Son. What do you have to say about that?" I looked genuinely confused. I don't understand what those two things have to do with each other. If you want to imply something, just say it directly. Then I casually waved my hand. "Anyway, your question is over too. Next." Immediately, another reporter aggressively followed up. "Student Gu Chen, did you use Longwei Group's influence to force Qingbei Academy to secretly open a back door for you?" At that point, I was genuinely speechless. Honestly, the entry barrier for the media industry really seemed low these days. Even people with no brains could apparently become reporters. I sighed helplessly before answering calmly. "As far as I know, there are many descendants in the Yue family. Yet among them, only Yue Xiaofei herself studied at Qingbei Academy. So if the Yue family really had enough power to manipulate Qingbei, why wouldn't they help their own family members instead of helping an outsider like me?" Then I added even more bluntly, "And even if someone really did use connections, has Qingbei Academy gone crazy? Why would they make a relationship-based student become Holy Son?" The reporters instantly quieted down because, honestly, my logic made perfect sense. But despite that, one particularly stubborn reporter still refused to give up. "You have a very close relationship with Yue Xiaofei. There are even rumors that you plan to marry into the Yue family. In that case, it's not impossible that the Yue family forced Qingbei to admit you in order to strengthen Yue Xiaofei's future inheritance rights." Hearing that instantly gave me a headache. Marry into the Yue family? I almost laughed from frustration. Go ask around Tianhai. The number of beautiful girls who like me could practically circle the earth twice. Why would I abandon an entire grassland just to become someone else's son-in-law? Then I confidently declared, even if something really did happen between me and Yue Xiaofei, she'd be the one marrying into the Gu family, not the other way around. The reporters were instantly stunned by my shameless confidence. One of them quickly continued, "So you're saying you genuinely achieved a perfect score entirely through your own abilities?" I shrugged casually. "Didn't Tianhai Television interview me immediately after the exam? I already said back then that I got full marks. But obviously many people still couldn't believe it." Another reporter quickly stood up. "Student Gu Chen, I've heard you have a very close relationship with Dr. Zhang Tao from Ali Group. Everyone knows Dr. Zhang's status in China's internet industry, and he controls countless elite hackers. Did Zhang Tao help you steal Qingbei Academy's exam papers beforehand?" Hearing that, I helplessly shook my head. I'm usually a pretty tolerant person, so it's whatever if you throw dirty water at me. But now you're slandering Zhang Tao too. I'm pretty sure Ali Group's legal department isn't just just for decoration. Then my tone became slightly colder. And don't forget about the UA family either. Once all of you leave here, you should seriously think carefully about what you've been saying today. If lawsuits arrive later, don't blame me for not warning you in advance. The atmosphere instantly changed. Many reporters finally realized they had gone too far. Normally, those conspiracy theories were only discussed privately online, but because I had irritated them earlier, they accidentally started openly asking those dangerous questions in public. Some reporters were even live streaming the entire interview. At that moment, several people suddenly realized they might have seriously gotten themselves into trouble. Thankfully, one reporter finally asked a proper academic question instead of conspiracy nonsense. Student Gu Chen, since you achieved a perfect score, could you explain how you solved the question involving the sum of natural numbers equaling -1/12? I immediately smiled. Haven't all of you already seen the official solutions online? Even if I explain it again now, it won't really prove anything. But honestly, Ramanujan truly was a genius for creating such an interesting formula. Another reporter quickly followed up. The final physics problem involved kinetic gas theory, which normally isn't studied until university. How did you answer it? I casually shrugged. Nobody ever said high school students aren't allowed to read university textbooks. Another reporter immediately changed direction again. Since student Gu Chen is so outstanding, why did you choose to study high school in America? Is your success today related to American education? Does this mean this year's Holy Sun belongs more to America than to China? Hearing that completely left me speechless. These nationalist reporters were honestly unbelievable. Still, I maintained my composure and smiled politely. I achieved a perfect score because I'm Gu Chen. It has very little to do with where I received my education. Even if I studied in Tianhai the entire time, I still would have gotten full marks. Then I calmly added, the reason I went abroad back then was more personal. Instantly, everyone became interested. Can you tell us about it? Someone immediately asked. I didn't mind sharing at all and answered openly, I fell in love with a girl. Then I sighed dramatically. As all of you know, countless girls like me. I was afraid she'd fall for me too, but relationships affect studying, so in order not to disturb her future, I chose to leave and study abroad instead. Only by giving her a peaceful environment could we both have a better future later. The reporters instantly became even more excited. Can you reveal who this girl is? Will she participate in next week's national entrance examination too? Or has she already entered Qingbei Academy as well? Sorry, but you've already asked too many questions. Next. The reporter instantly looked like he wanted to curse me to death. Soon after, the group interview officially ended. I leisurely returned home while the security guards escorted all the reporters and media workers out of the residential district. But for them, leaving the neighborhood didn't mean their work was over. In fact, their real work had only just begun. Honestly, I still underestimated the terrifying power of public opinion. And even more than that, I underestimated the shamelessness of media workers chasing traffic. For views and popularity, these people truly dared to write and say absolutely anything. Even if they eventually got sued, most of them didn't care. At worst, they would just disappear for a while, switch accounts, and come back later under a new identity. As clips from my interview spread wildly across the internet, one trending topic after another quickly climbed onto the hot searches. Gu Chen entered through connections. Longwei Group, Yue Family, Yue Xiaofei, Tianhai Holy Sun, Qingbei Academy Scandal. Even though I repeatedly stated during the interview that I achieved full marks entirely through my own abilities, people still preferred believing baseless conspiracy theories instead. Even on Qingbei Academy's official forums, countless students began questioning the school itself and accusing the administration of secretly manipulating admissions. Their reasoning was actually very simple. In their minds, there was no way a high school student could possibly achieve a perfect score on such an absurdly difficult exam within that limited amount of time. If that wasn't cheating, then what else could it be? Some radical students even suggested organizing silent protests outside Qingbei's admissions office and demanded a complete investigation into this year's entrance examination results. But honestly, Qingbei Academy itself was suffering silently too. Just imagine it, a full mark Holy Sun. Of course, the school thoroughly investigated every detail before announcing the results publicly. If there had truly been even the slightest suspicious point, Qingbei would never have dared release those scores. Unfortunately, the official clarification announcements issued by Qingbei were quickly drowned beneath endless waves of public doubt. There was simply no helping it. A perfect score exam paper was too unreasonable. And whenever something unreasonable appeared in this world, people naturally tried to comfort themselves by inventing explanations they preferred to believe. Yue Xiaofei obviously saw all the rumors spreading online as well. Even Longwei Group's legal department came to ask whether they should begin taking legal action. But Yue Xiaofei simply smiled calmly and said, "Let the bullets fly a little longer." In her opinion, trying to clarify things now would be mostly useless anyway. Qingbei Academy had already publicly released official announcements, so there was no need for Longwei Group to say anything more. Sitting in her office, Yue Xiaofei quietly smiled to herself. "Little brother, Now the whole world doubts you, so what are you planning to do next? She knew my personality very well. There was absolutely no way I would quietly hide from the storm. Besides, she understood that the situation becoming this explosive had a lot to do with the arrogant things I said during my interviews. Meanwhile, Su Yuking also stopped coming to see me these past 2 days. Right now, countless reporters and paparazzi were camping outside my neighborhood every day. On top of that, she had watched the full interview clip and immediately realized the girl I mentioned when explaining why I studied abroad was obviously her. But at the moment, she still wasn't mentally prepared to become the female lead beside me publicly, so she absolutely couldn't let reporters discover any clues. Even so, my explanation still made her feel both shy and angry at the same time. After all, the truth was clearly that I sold her the marriage contract for money before disappearing overseas. Yet, somehow I shamelessly turned myself into a love-struck tragic hero who sacrificed love for her future. Honestly, it was unbelievably shameless. Because she was worried certain people might start investigating her, Su Yuking temporarily hid at Lin Churen's house instead. Looking at the overwhelming accusations online, the young girl felt both angry and uncertain. Deep down, she truly wanted to believe me, but she had personally taken that same Qingbei exam herself. She only scored 276 points, and even that terrifying score ranked her 5th nationally. Meanwhile, I directly scored a full 350. No matter how she thought about it, the whole thing still felt unreal. Finally, she helplessly turned toward her best friend. Churan, what should I do? Everyone online keeps saying Gu Chen cheated, but honestly, Lin Churan's own emotions had also been unstable these past few days. Still, she understood the situation more clearly than most people. The moment Qingbei Academy released its official verification statement, she already realized something important. No matter how loud public opinion became, the final result would never change. Gu Chen truly was this year's holy son. He really had entered Qingbei Academy, which also meant, according to their bet, she would now have to confess to me. Looking at Su Yuking seriously, Lin Churan quietly asked, "Then do you believe him?" Su Yuking froze. I don't know. Lin Churan changed the question slightly. Yuking, tell me honestly, have you actually fallen for Gu Chen already? The moment she heard that, Su Yuqing's face instantly turned bright red. Why are you asking something so directly? Even I haven't fully figured it out myself yet. But seeing her reaction alone already gave Lin Churan the answer she needed. The destructive power of childhood sweethearts was simply too terrifying. A pure and simple girl like Su Yuking never really stood a chance. So Lin Churan softly sighed and said, "If you really like him, then trust him unconditionally. Besides, didn't you already see Qingbei's official announcement? They clearly stated there were no problems with this year's exam." Hearing that, Su Yuqing slowly began recalling memories from childhood. Back then, I really had been very smart. In fact, I was the one who taught her how to properly write numbers like 1,234. But afterward, I gradually lost interest in studying and instead spent every day desperately thinking of ways to get money from Uncle Gu. Over time, I slowly became known everywhere as the infamous prodigal son. Yet now that she thought about it carefully, if someone as naturally talented as me truly became serious again, then becoming a genius once more actually seemed perfectly reasonable. Slowly, Su Yuking finally found enough reasons in her heart to believe in me completely. She nodded firmly. "I understand now. Thank you, Churan. I believe Gu Chen. He's always been misunderstood. He's not the useless trash everyone thinks he is." Hearing that, Lin Churan instantly realized her best friend had completely fallen already. So with the seriousness of a true friend, she carefully warned her again. "Yuking, you really need to think this through carefully. You know exactly what kind of person Gu Chen is. If you actually end up together with him, there'll definitely be endless things for you to worry about in the future." Instantly, Su Yuking's face turned red again. What are you talking about? We're not together or anything. He hasn't even confessed to me yet." And honestly, she was right. I had never directly told Su Yuqing that I liked her or loved her. In fact, the only thing I openly did was shamelessly sell her marriage contract for money. Of course, I definitely liked her. It was just that, after knowing each other for so long, directly saying words like love somehow felt strangely awkward. Since we had been childhood sweethearts who grew up together, I had subconsciously long ago started treating Su Yuking as someone who already belonged beside me. Because of that, I never really said anything overly romantic or cheesy to her directly. But when Lin Churan heard everything, she felt completely shaken. Looking at Su Yuking, she couldn't help thinking, "My silly girl, please use your brain a little. That bastard confessed to me years ago already, yet he never even told you about it." Then she suddenly realized something else. "Wait, then why does he hold your hand so naturally? And you don't even resist him." The more she thought about it, the more she felt I was an absolute scumbag. After hesitating for a while, Lin Churan finally awkwardly brought up the bet between us from that day at Skydome Manor. Yu Qing, you still remember our bet, right? Su Yu King nodded honestly. Of course. You said if Gu Chen really got into Qingbei Academy, you'd publicly post that you like him. Seeing Su Yu King remain completely calm, Lin Churan nearly broke down. Wait, that's your reaction? I'm basically acting like a homewrecker here. And you're seriously okay with it? Then she reminded her helplessly. And now he really did get into Qingbei. But Su Yu Qing simply grabbed her best friend's hand gently and said seriously, I understand. Gu Chen already explained everything to me. He did it for our sake. Then she faithfully repeated the ridiculous explanation I previously gave her. Hearing the entire story, Lin Churan genuinely felt speechless. This girl was simply way too easy to fool. Deep in her heart, she even silently prayed for heaven to strike me down with lightning already. But Su Yu Qing continued seriously comforting her instead. Churan, don't worry, I really don't mind. With Gu Chen acting as your shield, you'll finally be able to focus properly on studying. Didn't you always say that you spent too much energy on music these past few years and slowly lost inspiration? Once we enter university, you can explore other things and broaden your horizons. Then she smiled softly and added, let Gu Chen deal with all the boys trying to bother you. After hesitating slightly, she quietly continued, and after thinking carefully these past 2 days, if you publicly confess to Gu Chen, then all the boys chasing me probably won't dare act recklessly anymore either. Hearing that, Lin Churan was completely stunned. Thank you, Su Yu King. Wait a second, is this somehow a three-way win? Then she immediately realized the truth. No, Gu Chen is the only one winning everything here. Meanwhile, back at the Gu family house, Dad and Mom were also extremely worried about me. Dad in particular felt incredibly frustrated. Earlier, when he accepted media interviews at the company, he initially felt extremely proud of me. But later, countless sharp accusations and doubts began appearing, completely ruining his mood. At this point, he almost regretted giving employees those vacation days. More than anything, he now desperately wanted to launch the graphene battery immediately and tell the entire world, my son isn't trash. He's a once-in-a-generation genius who either remains unnoticed or shocks the world completely. Looking at my worried parents, I calmly smiled and comforted them. Mom, Dad, I'm fine. That's just how the world works sometimes. People always demand that you prove yourself to strangers who honestly don't matter. But Mom still looked furious. Those rumors and slanders online are disgusting. Should I call your grandfather? Maybe he can arrest all those bad people. Hearing that instantly shocked me. Mom normally never cared much even when Dad went bankrupt, but now that her precious son, who wasn't even 18 yet, was suffering endless attacks online, she genuinely became heartbroken. I immediately panicked. Mom, please don't do anything crazy. Grandpa is already old. There's no need to bother him over something this small. Then I smiled helplessly. Besides, haven't I been misunderstood my whole life anyway? I can handle it. But Mom immediately shook her head. It's different this time. Before, people only talked inside small circles. Then her expression became slightly awkward. Although, to be fair, your spending habits really were a little outrageous before. She sighed deeply. But now the entire internet is attacking you. Even complete strangers are insulting you. I just can't stand it anymore. I gently comforted her again. Mom, trust me. I can handle this myself. Most people online only care for 3 minutes anyway. Once I officially enter Qingbei Academy and truly rise to fame, those same people will all line up to apologize. Still, Mom remained worried. Are you really okay? You've been online constantly these past 2 days. Please don't do anything reckless. I laughed helplessly. I'm just watching the chaos online for entertainment and observing the terrifying depths of human stupidity. Only after repeatedly promising that I wouldn't do anything extreme did my parents finally return downstairs to rest, though both still looked deeply worried. But honestly, I remained completely relaxed. Just as Yue Xiaofei predicted, there was no way I would continue hiding like a turtle forever. There were still nearly 2 months left before university started, so naturally I needed to find something interesting to do. Since the Qingbei forums were acting so arrogant, and all those so-called geniuses kept questioning me because they couldn't accept that someone accomplished what they themselves couldn't, then I would simply smash their pride directly. Today, I finally received my official Qingbei student ID number and successfully registered an account on the university forums. The moment my account activated, I directly decided to challenge every academy in Qingbei publicly. Anyone dissatisfied could connect with me live and compete directly. They could ask any questions they wanted. I would make every single Qingbei student understand clearly that I had arrived, and from now on, all of them would eventually bow their heads before me. This was what a true unrivaled genius looked like. But right after creating my forum account, the familiar system notification suddenly echoed inside my mind again. Ding! A genius's pride cannot tolerate provocation. Slander must be erased. Main mission: conduct a completely open livestream and defeat all doubters. Mission reward: 5,000 fame value, 1 charm point, and one super micro full domain recorder. Seeing another main mission appear instantly made me happy. This dog system really did understand my personality perfectly, but then I suddenly noticed something strange. Wait a second, didn't you say everything valuable has to be personally manufactured by me? Then why is there a finished product reward this time? This recorder thing, don't tell me it's another useless concept toy. I immediately remembered Xiao Dai, the artificial intelligence assistant I previously built. At first, I thought it would be incredible, but in reality, it was unbelievably dumb. I had to personally write countless programs and train it for ages before it barely reached the level of ordinary modern AI systems. But the system calmly explained, livestream-related missions are categorized differently within the mission system. Therefore, rewarding a completed product in this case is perfectly normal. And this recorder is far more advanced, the system continued proudly. It includes scanning functions, transparent vision capabilities, and an even smaller hidden recording structure. If you want even better versions, the mall already contains the blueprints. What? You brat! Are you planning never to spend money in the system mall again? Hearing that instantly made me think carefully. Ever since the system fully loaded, I really hadn't spent any money on it anymore. Wait a second, wasn't this actually a brilliant strategy? If I simply refused to recharge the system forever, wouldn't every mission eventually come with incredible bonus rewards instead? The system immediately saw through my thoughts. Host, stop trying to exploit this system. Money is meant to be spent eventually. Instead of wasting it on meaningless things in reality, wouldn't spending it here create far greater value? Honestly, I was too lazy to keep arguing with the dog system. Since it had already released a live stream related mission, then clearly my original plan to challenge all Qingbei academies needed a slight upgrade. After thinking for a moment, I directly opened the Qingbei forum and started writing a new post. Dear seniors and classmates of Qingbei Academy, I am Gu Chen. Originally, I admired Qingbei Academy greatly, but after browsing the forums these past 2 days, I've become deeply disappointed. I thought all of you were heaven's favored geniuses with extraordinary talent and broad minds. Yet, after reading your posts, I realized you're all just jealous idiots. I continued typing without hesitation. Was that exam paper really that difficult? Is scoring full marks seriously such an impossible thing? Those mathematical formulas involving Ramanujan and Euler were solved long ago already. Is it really strange that I know them? Or are you all simply unfamiliar with the greatest minds in human history? As for the final physics problem, it was even more laughable. Since when is it unusual for a high school student to study university-level material? Yet all of you Qingbei students are acting like that exam paper descended from heaven itself. Honestly, it's ridiculous. The more I wrote, the more aggressive my tone became. Looking at the comments on this forum, I genuinely feel worried for Qingbei Academy's future. You people are supposed to become the pillars of this country someday. Yet with your current mentality, you'll probably become national disasters instead. Then I directly challenged everyone openly. I know many of you are dissatisfied and think I'm just acting arrogant. Fortunately, I'm a very generous person. Soon I'll begin a public live stream. Bring every doubt you have directly into my live stream room. Any Qingbei Academy related to subjects from my examination may challenge me openly. Anyone dissatisfied can step forward personally. If I fail to completely destroy your pride, then I, Gu Chen, will never enter Qingbei Academy. Then I suddenly remembered something important and casually added another paragraph. Oh right, most of the photos currently spreading online are 2π shots of me. Although I still look handsome in them, they honestly don't fully capture my charm. So I've attached a proper selfie here for everyone. Any cute girls interested may save it freely. No charge. Also, any senior sisters, junior sisters, or female professors interested in having deeper conversations with me should remember to follow my forum account. I'll remain very active here in the future. Of course, girls with average looks or low IQs can forget about it. Finally, I ended the post with one last line. Remember my name. I am Gu Chen. I hold the sun, moon, and stars in my hands. In this world, there exists no one like me. The moment the post went live, the entire Qingbei forum completely exploded. Shortly afterward, the internet itself exploded too. My outrageous speech and unbelievably handsome selfie spread wildly across every social media platform. Countless young girls instantly became my fans overnight. Honestly, even though some of my comments toward women weren't exactly respectful, this world had always been ruled by appearances. People could only sigh helplessly. So this is the Qingbei Holy Sun? Truly elegant and unparalleled. But naturally, many others were furious. This guy is way too arrogant. A person who entered through connections actually dares act this wildly? If we don't crush him completely, where will Qingbei students' dignity go? Where will the academy's prestige go? Yet others hesitated slightly. Still, the fact that Gu Chen dares say things like, I'll never enter Qingbei if I lose means he might genuinely have some confidence. But many immediately disagreed. He's obviously bluffing. I refuse to believe anyone can be that talented. And don't forget, this guy even submitted his exam early. At the time he finished, even copying directly from an answer sheet would have taken nearly the same amount of time. Something is definitely suspicious. Exactly. Since he wants to livestream and prove himself publicly, then I'll absolutely challenge him personally and teach him what true Qingbei pride means. Meanwhile, mixed among all the angry comments were completely different reactions. Is anyone else secretly thinking Gu Chen is ridiculously handsome? Does anyone know his private contact information? Instantly, the furious male students exploded again. Damn it! Gu Chen really deserves death. Beyond just the student community, many senior Qingbei professors and school leaders also became highly interested in me after seeing my forum post. Looking at my message, countless people inside Qingbei Academy fell into strange silence. This year's Holy Sun was clearly very different from previous generations. Even Qingbei Academy's president, Li Hongzhou, the famous aerospace expert and dual academy academician of China, had recently been personally studying my background repeatedly. After reading through my information countless times, he couldn't help secretly smiling. A student like this entering Qingbei Academy, school life definitely won't be boring anymore. Then he flipped to the last page of my personal file, where an old man with a weathered face appeared in a photograph. Li Hongzhou narrowed his eyes slightly and muttered, Old he. I never expected you to secretly hide such an interesting grandson. Once I fully nurture this kid, I wonder whether your he family will regret their choices. Yue Xiaofei, despite already graduating from Qingbei years ago, still regularly browsed the school forums too. Naturally, she saw my post almost immediately. Although she already guessed I wouldn't continue hiding quietly, even she found my chosen method unbelievably outrageous. A youthful spirit that dared challenge the mountains and rivers themselves. Perhaps this really was the madness unique to young people. Meanwhile, after posting everything, I started seriously thinking about practical matters. Where should I hold the live stream? Which platform should I cooperate with? How could I ensure the broadcast remained fully transparent and convincing enough? These issues all required careful planning because the people doubting me definitely wouldn't surrender easily. Besides, live streaming was incredibly popular right now. As the Qingbei Holy Sun, if I was going to live stream publicly, then naturally I should at least make some money from it too. After all, I was almost an adult already, yet I still didn't even possess my first 100 million. Honestly, that felt deeply humiliating. Before I even contacted anyone myself, several major live streaming platforms with excellent information networks proactively came looking for me first. Every single one offered full support for my upcoming live stream, and even claimed they wouldn't charge any fees. Hearing that instantly made me laugh. Did they seriously think I was some clueless child? Too lazy to waste time negotiating with internet companies, I instead decided to cooperate with old acquaintances directly. Soon I sat inside a conference room together with the director of Tianhai Television's host department and the female reporter who interviewed me after the Qingbei exam previously. The moment negotiations started, the director immediately looked at me helplessly and exclaimed, "Young Master Gu, your demands are way too ruthless." 40% is already more than enough for your television station, I calmly said while sitting across from Manager Bai in the conference room. Don't forget, this entire thing is basically money falling from the sky for you. Manager Bai immediately looked unhappy. That may be true, but seeing you, Guchen, earn even more than me still makes me uncomfortable. 50-50 split. Hearing that, I instantly grabbed the contract and stood up. Then I'll go find someone else. 70-30. Goodbye. The moment I turned around, Manager Bai panicked. Wait, young Master Gu. Fine, I'll sign. I smiled faintly and tossed the contract back onto the table. Tomorrow I'll send my lawyer over so we can finalize the details. Time is tight, so during this period, your people better work hard. How much money your station can make depends entirely on your own abilities. After saying that, I directly left the room. The contents of my cooperation with Tianhai Television were actually very simple. Tianhai Television would receive exclusive rights to host my live stream publicly. Before the broadcast officially began, they could freely attract sponsors, place product links inside the live stream room, and even resell live stream broadcasting rights to other platforms. In short, Tianhai Television could operate the live stream however they wanted. However, there were two absolute conditions. First, watching the live stream had to remain completely free for everyone. Second, the live stream itself needed to be fully transparent and public from every angle. After the live stream ended, all generated revenue would be divided 60-40. I would take 60%, while Tianhai Television would keep 40%. After I left, the female reporter beside Manager Bai still looked nervous. Boss, if we sign a contract this huge, won't the station director blame us? But Manager Bai instantly waved his hand excitedly. Blame us for what? This is the Qingbei Holy Sun. His live stream is literally a battle of knowledge between geniuses. Is there any live stream more positive and educational than this? At that moment, All the worry and pain from earlier negotiations had completely vanished from his face. Instead, he looked unbelievably excited. Quickly notify everyone in the livestream department. Tell the entire team to gather in the meeting room immediately. Whether your year-end bonuses become huge or not depends entirely on this event. Soon, inside the meeting room, after listening to Manager Bai explain the entire situation, nearly every employee understood instantly. This truly was a fortune falling from heaven. The only question was how much money they themselves could grab from it. Manager Bai immediately began assigning tasks. First, release the announcement that Tianhai Television officially secured Gu Chen's exclusive livestream rights. Once that news spreads, all the major internet platforms will definitely come begging us for redistribution rights themselves. After all, the biggest influence from this entire incident exists online. One employee looked confused. But boss, if we redistribute the livestream rights outward, won't we lose a huge amount of traffic ourselves? Manager Bai immediately shook his head confidently. We're a television station. We were never good at attracting younger internet traffic anyway. Besides, online popularity always fades eventually. For us, traffic isn't the important part. Money is. Hearing that, everyone instantly admired him even more. Boss, that's brilliant. But Manager Bai wasn't finished yet. However, all live challenge connections during the broadcast must go through our official channel. Opportunities for that kind of key exposure can't be casually sold away. We'll only provide external platforms with the live stream footage itself. If we sell everything completely, the value will decrease too much. Everyone hurriedly took notes while imagining their future year-end bonuses growing larger and larger. Then Manager Bai suddenly smiled again. Besides online profits, we can also earn money offline. Someone instantly became excited. Boss, are you planning to charge entrance tickets? Manager Bai immediately straightened his expression and acted righteously. What nonsense are you saying? We're a television station with integrity. How could we shamelessly take money directly from ordinary citizens? The employee looked confused. Then how are we earning offline? Manager Bai smiled slyly. Isn't self-media incredibly popular right now? And aren't short videos dominating the internet? If they want to record offline footage of Gu Chen's live stream or even conduct secondary live streams themselves, we'll allow it, as long as they pay. The entire room instantly understood. Of course, Manager Bai added, they must maintain a certain distance and absolutely cannot interfere with Gu Chen's official livestream. Coordinate carefully with the security department about that. Don't be stingy with the budget either. Someone immediately began praising him shamelessly. Boss, you're incredible! Between livestream redistribution rights, sponsorships, shopping links, and paid offline recording access, Tianhai Television was essentially earning money from every possible direction simultaneously. Honestly, Manager Bai's business methods were genuinely ruthless. When I later received the preliminary operational plan he sent over, I felt extremely satisfied. Fame and profit truly corrupted human nature. But for the future of humanity, I could only reluctantly bear such burdens myself. Even though I was very confident about this live stream, the people challenging me would still be highly prepared experts, so naturally I also needed to prepare carefully. The very first thing I did was spend the 10,000 fame points I recently earned entirely on upgrading my abilities. I focused mainly on mathematics and physics since those subjects would likely be the most difficult during the live stream challenges. After the upgrades, my mathematics reached 64 while physics reached 63. That should be more than enough to dominate this live stream. Besides stat upgrades, I also spent the remaining 500 fame points purchasing 2 additional problem-solving cards from the system store, just in case my brain suddenly malfunctioned during the broadcast. With all those preparations complete, I finally relaxed completely. Now all that remained was publicly crushing the so-called geniuses of the world. But while I stayed relaxed, the people around me became incredibly nervous instead. Su Yuqing even proposed joining the live stream herself so she could help me face difficult questions together. But I directly rejected her. After all, my wonderful university life hadn't even officially started yet. Countless beautiful girls were still waiting for me to comfort them in the future. I absolutely couldn't allow myself to get tied down so early. Besides, male students already hated me enough. There was no need to further increase their resentment. Finally, the day of the livestream officially arrived. Just as promised, I appeared at Tianhai Television's livestream venue, which was set up directly in the center of Haitian Plaza outside the station headquarters. Honestly, choosing to cooperate with Tianhai Television really had been a wise decision. Their professional equipment, security systems, testing procedures, and organizational abilities were all extremely impressive. Professionals truly handled things professionally. Manager Bai walked over and asked nervously, "Young Master Gu, are you ready?" I simply smiled calmly. Of course. Hearing that, Manager Bai immediately turned around and shouted toward the staff. "All departments prepare for final inspections. We begin countdown procedures in 1 minute." However, I didn't immediately appear on the live stream screen myself. Instead, the broadcast first opened with a professional host standing before the camera. The live stream officially began with the host first introducing the event rules and background. Without wasting further time, the host announced excitedly, Let us now hand today's livestream over to the main character himself. Tianhai City's first ever Qingbei Holy Son, the first perfect score student since Qingbei Academy began its independent admissions system, and the man publicly recognized as Tianhai's most handsome genius, Gu Chen. The camera finally turned toward me. Under the afternoon sunlight, I stood calmly in a simple white shirt and ordinary student clothes. My brows looked like distant mountains, my eyes bright as stars, and the faint smile at the corner of my mouth made the entire atmosphere feel strangely unreal. Against the blue sky and drifting white clouds behind me, I looked like the embodiment of youth itself. At that moment, countless viewers suddenly understood what it meant for someone to truly deserve all the beauty in this world. Instantly, the live stream exploded with comments. "Oh my god, he's so handsome! Help! There's no way someone this good looking would cheat. People are obviously just jealous. Can't someone be both handsome and smart?" Of course, there were also plenty of hostile comments mixed in, but honestly, I didn't care. Looking calmly into the camera, I spoke casually. Everything I needed to say was already posted on the Qingbei forums. The host also explained the rules pretty clearly just now, so let's skip the nonsense and begin directly. Then I smiled faintly. I just hope today's challengers are good enough. I'd hate for my first livestream to become boring. The comment section instantly exploded again. Damn, he's still this arrogant. I love him. Gu Chen, I believe you no matter what. Acting cool always comes with consequences. Just wait for the backlash. Honestly, if he gets destroyed live, the stream would become even more entertaining. At that moment, however, I wasn't paying attention to the comments anymore. According to the planned procedures, I first had to undergo a full body inspection live on camera to prove I wasn't hiding any communication devices or smart equipment. Thankfully, this was when I finally appreciated Xiaodai's true value slightly. None of the detection devices discovered that the plain-looking ring on my finger was actually an advanced artificial intelligence assistant. Of course, with Xiaodai's current level, it couldn't really help me much during the livestream anyway. Still, I had already grown used to wearing it daily. Habits formed naturally after enough time. Once the inspection finished successfully, the host smiled again. Alright, before the challenge segment officially begins, let's randomly select one audience comment for Gu Chen to respond to. This interaction segment existed mainly for ordinary viewers. After all, the Genius Challenge battles were the main course, but normal live stream audiences still needed entertainment too. Unfortunately, out of all the comments flying across the screen, especially the countless girls confessing their love, the system somehow selected an extremely troublesome one instead. This is supposed to be an intellectual showdown live stream, yet you turned it into a commercial circus with sponsorships, distribution deals, and advertisements everywhere. Young Master Gu, are you really that obsessed with money? Isn't your behavior kind of ugly? I honestly didn't know whether Tianhai Television intentionally picked that comment for drama, or if my luck was simply terrible. After clearing my throat, I calmly answered, "Yes, I really do need money." Then I looked directly into the camera and continued seriously. In fact, I wish the entire world's money could be used by me. The live stream instantly exploded. But before anyone could misunderstand, I continued calmly. One day in the future, all of you will understand something. Every bit of money I earn will eventually return to this world and benefit humanity itself. I earn money because I want to create a better future for mankind. The comment section immediately mocked me again. Young Master Gu suddenly sounds very noble, but I simply smiled. No, I'm being honest. In the future, I'll walk the path of scientific research. Do any of you know how much scientific research costs? My tone gradually became more serious. Do you know how much money is needed to develop advanced chips? To create new medicine? To research new materials? To retain top scientific talents? Should researchers always beg governments for money every time they want to accomplish something? Then I laughed lightly. I've never liked relying on other people. My father taught me since childhood that if you want to spend money, spend your own money, or at most your father's money. That feels the most comfortable. Finally, I calmly concluded, so tell me, what's wrong with scientists earning money? People fighting for humanity's future deserve to make money too. Even the live stream comments quieted slightly after hearing that. Many viewers reluctantly admitted my words actually made sense. Of course, some still mocked me. Nice speech, but you're not exactly a scientist yet. But I ignored them completely. Alright, we'll continue selecting audience comments later. Now, let's officially welcome today's first challenger. Soon the first challenger connected live. Hello, student Gu Chen. I'm a mathematics PhD student from Dongri University. I'd like to discuss a problem with you. Hearing the word PhD, my expression finally became slightly serious. The people challenging me today were all genuine top-tier young talents under 26 years old. Before being allowed to connect with me, they first had to complete a special qualification exam prepared by Qingbei Forum experts. Only after passing that test could they officially enter today's livestream challenges. After all, I was still Qingbei Academy's holy son. We couldn't let random nobodies casually come challenge me with meaningless questions. Once the challenger qualification process finished, Qingbei's forum management team also carefully reviewed the challengers manually. Since this was supposed to be a knowledge showdown, not some chaotic internet argument, standards naturally needed to remain high. I leaned slightly forward. Alright, let's begin. Mathematics is actually one of my stronger subjects. The PhD student nodded calmly and asked, how would you prove that every integer greater than 5 can be expressed as the sum of 3 prime numbers? The moment I heard the question, I froze briefly. This bastard was clearly here to cause trouble. Instantly, the livestream comments exploded again. Why isn't the streamer talking? That proof doesn't sound very difficult. Don't tell me the streamer can't solve it. Ha 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 ha. Wasn't he acting super arrogant earlier? Why did he suddenly become mute? I had only paused for a few seconds, yet countless idiots were already furiously typing nonsense in the comments. Honestly, China's educational mission still had a long way to go. Finally, some smarter viewers began realizing what was happening. Wait, this PhD student is evil. If he asked whether every even integer greater than 2 can be expressed as the sum of 2 primes, everyone would recognize it instantly. That's basically Goldbach's conjecture, a world-famous unsolved mathematical problem. If someone proved that, universities worldwide would fight to worship them. This challenger is obviously trolling. Only then did ordinary viewers finally understand the situation. Looking into the camera, I honestly replied, "Brother, I can't solve this problem for now." But then I calmly smiled. Still, don't worry. Give me 3 years at most, and I'll definitely prove it. I spoke with the calmest tone imaginable, as if proving one of humanity's greatest unsolved mathematical problems within 3 years was the most normal thing in the world. With the calmest expression possible, I had just declared what was probably the craziest thing I'd ever said publicly in my entire life. 3 years to completely prove Goldbach's conjecture. If I actually pulled that off, then forget becoming some ordinary genius. I'd probably charge straight into the top 10 mathematicians in human history. And the most terrifying part was that by then, I might only be barely over 20 years old. The live stream instantly exploded. What kind of monster is this? This is way too arrogant. Streamer, I'll make a bet with you. If you really solve Goldbach's conjecture, I'll livestream myself eating shit. Young people truly don't know the height of heaven and earth. Countless great mathematicians have fallen trying to completely prove Goldbach's conjecture, yet he talks about it like it's some homework assignment. Absolutely disgusting. Of course, there were also girls defending me immediately. Maybe little brother really can do it. Someone that handsome would never lie. Instantly, the male viewers lost their minds again. Where are the moderators? Can these brainless fangirls calm down? This female viewer is hopeless. I remembered her ID already. Brothers, let's report her together. Honestly, this was simply how large live streams worked. The streamer barely even needed to create entertainment himself. Just saying a few random sentences was enough for the comment section to entertain itself for hours. Meanwhile, the mathematics PhD student suddenly coughed awkwardly and explained, "Actually, student Guchen, my earlier question was mostly just a joke. Recently, I've been researching number theory functions myself, and while reading your proof involving Euler's famous formula, I noticed your methods were surprisingly innovative. Personally, I never doubted your abilities. I mainly joined today hoping to exchange ideas with you. After all, mathematics has always been a young person's game." Hearing that instantly made me laugh. "You should have said that earlier. I almost thought you came here just to cause trouble." Then I nodded politely. "Thank you, senior. What exactly would you like to discuss?" I thought briefly before continuing. Although my proof did use some relatively fresh methods, honestly speaking, Euler's original proof was already incredibly elegant and concise. I think our approaches are fundamentally similar. The PhD student quickly responded, "But during your proof, you introduced infinite series involving tangent functions and then used tangent expansions again during later transformations. I'm very curious how you came up with that idea." I smiled casually. "Well, as you know, I'm technically still just a high school student, so my academic knowledge remains limited. Naturally, I could only solve the problem using the tools available within my own knowledge system. After performing substitutions and transformations, the answer eventually becomes reachable through L'Hopital's rule. In the end, it was simply a matter of adapting flexibly during the exam itself." The PhD student instantly laughed. Student Gu Chen suddenly became humble? Then he jokingly sighed. "Listening to you now makes me feel like maybe I should return to reviewing basic undergraduate material again." I nodded seriously. Fundamentals never become outdated. Even PhD students should occasionally revisit undergraduate courses. Sometimes fresh inspiration appears from the simplest places, especially in mathematics, where imagination matters immensely. Pure hard thinking alone doesn't always solve problems. This time, I genuinely meant every word sincerely. The PhD student nodded thoughtfully. "Understood. Thank you, student Gu Chen. If you ever come to Japan in the future, remember to contact me. I'll definitely show you around properly. Hearing that instantly made my eyes light up slightly. Japan's famous entertainment districts were practically legendary among men. I suddenly wondered whether this PhD student possessed certain special connections there. Before I could think further, he smiled and added, "All right, I won't waste more of your time. Goodbye." But right before disconnecting, he left everyone with one final reminder. Friendly advice to the challengers afterward: don't bother bringing ordinary mathematics problems anymore unless you're genuinely planning to use world-level unsolved problems to challenge Guchen. Then he disconnected completely. Unfortunately, the very next challenger still shamelessly arrived with another world-class conjecture problem. I got so annoyed that I directly used one of my system problem-solving cards on the spot. By this point in the live stream, however, the later challengers had clearly become much more nervous. Some of them didn't even dare ask their prepared questions anymore. Instead, like the first PhD student, they casually chatted with me for a few sentences before quickly escaping. After I continuously demonstrated overwhelming ability in chemistry and biology as well, almost nobody inside the live stream still doubted whether I truly deserved the title of Qingbei Holy Son. At the same time, over on the Qingbei forums, students had already started publicly posting apology threads under their real names. Some even invited me to dinner after school officially started. After solving enough problems, I finally stretched lazily and smiled toward the camera again. All right, we've done plenty of difficult questions already. Let's return to responding to audience comments for a while. Then I casually added, "I'm not the kind of genius completely disconnected from ordinary people. Besides, constantly solving problems most viewers can't even understand probably damages everyone's self-esteem too much." Instantly, the live stream exploded again. Who says I couldn't understand? I totally solved all those problems already. Streamer looks down on people too much. Come visit Ningun someday. I'll personally treat you to spicy hot pot. Looking at the endless flood of question marks and chaotic comments, I honestly felt incredibly happy. Compared to those so-called geniuses, ordinary people were much more entertaining. Soon, another selected audience question appeared. Streamer, what's the next line after Jingxi Guihong Bu Chengzi? And you're not allowed to search online. Seeing the question instantly made me laugh. Was this some frustrated literature student seeking revenge? Calmly, I answered, Jingxi Guihong Bu Chengzi, Tike Luoye Zui Jizhou. It comes from Huang Tingjian's poetry. Though technically the concept one leaf tells the arrival of autumn first originated from Huainanzi. Huang Tingjian was essentially borrowing and adapting the phrase creatively. Instantly, countless viewers became shocked again. What the hell? Even this kind of obscure poetry knowledge? The streamer actually knows literature too? He's seriously good at everything. From today onward, the streamer is officially my idol. Hearing those reactions, I smiled lightly. Honestly, my Chinese literature grades weren't particularly amazing, but I do know a little about poetry and classical writing. Then I casually added, after all, I've written several thousand love letters in my life already. At that exact moment, both Suyu King and Lin Churan were watching my live stream together. The instant they heard me casually brag about writing thousands of love letters, Suyu King's expression immediately darkened. Thousands of love letters? Then why had she never received even one from me? Beside her, Lin Churan's face didn't look much better either. So after all that emotional excitement back then, she was only one out of thousands? Meanwhile, Suyu King suddenly turned toward her best friend seriously and asked, Churan, yo, is Gu Chen actually a playboy? Lin Churan instantly felt speechless. Did that even need asking? But seeing her best friend's complicated expression, she still chose to comfort her. You know how Gu Chen's mouth works. He's obviously exaggerating again. Thousands of love letters? Even if he wrote one every single day, it would still take years. There's no way. Hearing that, Su Yuqing finally relaxed slightly and nodded. That's true. But then she looked back toward the livestream screen again with sparkling eyes. Still, I really didn't expect him to be this incredible. I couldn't solve a single one of those questions earlier, but he solved all of them so easily. Then she suddenly remembered something and instantly covered her face in embarrassment. And here I was tutoring him these past few days. That's so embarrassing. Lin Churan suddenly smiled slightly and said, look at it from another angle. He already mastered university-level knowledge, yet he still patiently sat there listening to you explain high school material every day. Doesn't that prove he really cares about you? Honestly, even Lin Churan herself didn't understand why she suddenly started helping me speak positively. But the moment Su Yuqing heard that explanation, her entire mood instantly brightened again. So that's what it was? Thinking back to those 2 weeks spent together with me day and night, her heart immediately filled with sweetness. Looking at me on the live stream screen now, her eyes practically overflowed with affection. Meanwhile, the live stream comments exploded again. Streamer, are you seriously that amazing? What kind of love letters did you write? Quickly tell us! Obviously, gossip about relationships and romance always attracted people the most. Seeing the entire comment section begging for details, there was naturally no way I'd disappoint them. So I leaned back casually and smiled. All right then, since everyone's so curious, I'll tell you a little story. Then I slowly began speaking. Back then, I had just entered middle school, and was at that age when feelings first begin awakening. Honestly, I didn't even fully understand romance myself. I only felt that if I managed to pursue a girl nobody else could get, then wouldn't that prove I was impressive? The comments instantly exploded again. And then, streamer, hurry up. Did you chase the school beauty? Seeing that comment made me laugh immediately. School beauty? I shook my head proudly. You're seriously underestimating me too much. In the entire city of Tianhai, I honestly can't think of any girl prettier or more elegant than her. The atmosphere instantly became even more excited. Phew! So what happened? I curled my lips slightly upward, revealing a confident smile full of youthful arrogance. That year, I was 12 years old. I simply used one sentence, pure as a lotus, rising from clear waters, naturally untouched by decoration. Then I proudly added, with just that single line, the little girl instantly fell deeply for me and couldn't resist my charm. The live stream instantly exploded with disbelief. No way! Streamer succeeded that easily? Can Levi's poetry really be this deadly? Bullshit. I used that line before too, and it didn't work at all. I immediately shook my head seriously. That's because you people don't understand romance. I secretly modified one character inside the poem, and cleverly hid the girl's name within it. Then I confidently spread my hands. When someone as handsome, talented, and detail-oriented as me personally makes a move, wouldn't success naturally become easy? But just as I proudly finished bragging, several Tianhai viewers suddenly started connecting the dots. Wait, I'm from Tianhai too. Guchen. Are you talking about Lin Churan? I also studied at Tianhai No. 1 Middle School. If I remember correctly, Lin Churan never publicly dated anyone during middle school. Later, she focused entirely on music and rarely appeared at school anymore. The moment I saw those increasingly dangerous comments appearing, my heart instantly skipped a beat. Damn it. I was about to expose myself completely. So without hesitation, I quickly switched to the livestream interface and pulled up another audience question prepared earlier by Tianhai Television. Then I forced a calm smile and said, those are all just youthful memories now. The insecurity and recklessness of adolescence eventually drift away with the wind. After desperately changing the topic, I casually continued, anyway, let's see what other interesting questions everyone has. Meanwhile, inside Su Yuking's house, Su Yuking slowly turned her head toward Lin Churan with an extremely suspicious expression. Wait a second. Churan, did something actually happen between you and Gu Chen back in middle school?